Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is Kyle Steiner. Originally, he joined the United States Army as an 18 X-ray. He was then assigned to Vicenza, Italy, where he was sent to Cap Restrepo in Afghanistan. He's featured in the documentary Restrepo and Korangal. After he returned from that, he returned to Special Forces Assessment Selection, passed the course, earned his Green Beret, and is now wrapping up a full career with 7th Special Forces Group, the real Kyle Steiner on Instagram. I will have links to his socials in the show description. Today's episode is brought to you by the Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. Precision Wellness Group helps you restore balance, unlock vitality through bioidentical hormone therapy and evidence-based personalized telemedicine. Dr. Taylor Bosley is a board-certified physician and a Green Beret, which means he has the shared background and he knows where you've been, where you want to go, and how to get you there. And he's an actual doctor who can prescribe you actual medicine. So if hormone therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, peptides, if this is something you've been thinking about for a while now, or just looking into, look no further than Precision Wellness Group. I will have links to their socials and website, along with Kyle Steiner's, in the show description. I do appreciate you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. All right, Kyle Steiner, welcome to Lesser Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, awesome. A pleasure, brother. Happy to be here.
I mean, I'm always honored, and I'll explain to my guests the main reason for that in a second. But shout out to Gravy for officially introducing you to me. Um, Even though, as a Green Beret, there's only at most, at all times, 1 degree of separation between any of us at any time to get a hold of one another. It's actually crazy. But the reason is, and I don't know if you've given much thought to this, but I would say the majority of service members from the global war on terror know who you are and also have no idea who you are at the same time. Have you ever given any thought to that?
Not really, man. I mean, I figured I had kind of disappeared into the minds of everybody. We're going self after being in the regular army for so long and being the one St. Third. So, but knowing who I am deep down, they probably don't know.
So I before this I do my research, my little bit of research and things like that. But I've been looking forward to this because I, everyone has seen Restrepo or knows the documentary Restrepo or Korangal and things like that, right? And if they saw it and they saw your face, they'd be like, "Oh, I fucking know that guy. I watched that shit. I was glued to the TV when that shit was going on." Like, or they joined the military because of that video, or they're like, "Man." Even people deployed, they saw that and they're like, "Fuck, I'm glad I don't have it that bad." Things like that. Um, and now, hopefully, as I said, when we started counting down my hundreds of listeners, we can get you a little more notoriety because that's what lesser known operators are all about. You're a true lesser known operator. You've disappeared, did your job, and now you're out. And now I view you as being, as much as I can, oh, I mean, I fucked that up. Anything I can do to help you, it's an honor to do, along with all my guests. So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate this. I'm very excited to interview you.
Yeah, brother. I'm pumped.
So I guess, what do you got going on now, right? Why is the reason? Because you said you went dark for 14 or 15 years when you went on to, how do we call it? What do we say? White side? To the white side ODAs or whatever the fuck that means. But you went dark. Is it just because that's what all SF guys do when they go to selection and disappear into group, or what's the reason for having no presence?
Yeah, I mean, when I joined SF, the social media wasn't a big thing. Like, the Facebook was still the Facebook, or just about to be Facebook. My MySpace was kicking back then. Um, but the documentary and stuff was coming out, and I don't know if you remember the portion of training in the Q course where they kind of try to find secrets out about you to use against you. Different things that you might have had on social media, or they bringing up pictures. Yeah, that's a portion they
No.
did when I and there's a lot of stuff about the documentary because there was two two magazine articles, the Vanity Fair articles. It was on Nightline and Dateline, different things like that from the 173rd. So they used that, and it freaked me out. And then going special operations, going SF, they were like, can't have social media. I was like, all right. So I just went dark. In fact, the writer and the creator of Restrepo, he did a whole like where are they now piece, and my section had like a blurb just like that he went special operations, like dot dot dot, and it was it. It was gone. And I remember about 3 years ago, I saw somebody came up to me with an Instagram picture of me, and it said, "Where is this guy? Does anybody know what happened to him? Like, is he dead?" And everybody was laughing about it. So I just kind of went away, and my career's kind of coming to a natural close, um, whether by my hand or not by my hand. Just kind of coming to an end. So I figured I'd try to see what I could do online and help some guys out.
Is that what it is? You want to help guys out and kind of pass on what you learned, or what's the area you want to get into?
Well, yeah. So I was going to get into kind of life coaching, but more business aspect of it. So I started operator mindset because I'm a I'm a youth wrestling coach here at where Seventh Group is, and I started this club with a couple other Green Berets because our kids we had a wrestling background. Our kids didn't have a place to wrestle, so we spawned this thing out of nothing. Um, it was initially attached to the local high school, and then they wanted nothing to do with us, so we kind of branched off and made our own thing. It helped us that a group commander and his kids were heavily involved, so we got a lot of traction that way. But I started coaching kids, and then I really really found a passion in coaching kids, and then slowly I started realizing there's a lot of hypocrisy in the youth coaching arena, and I would get really mad about it, like outwardly mad at tournaments and stuff, especially with parents and fathers that expected a lot from their children and didn't exude the same standards of themselves. It started making me really mad. And then I started hearing these excuses like, "Well, you don't understand. You're an operator, or you're a Green Beret, so like you're different." And it just it fired me up. It really did.
What the fuck does that mean?
Exactly. As if I was born with something special or you were born with something special. Anybody, they have no idea. I was listening to one of your podcasts, like you're just a normal dude that went through some shit and came out the other side clean, 50% luck, 50% skill, whatever it is. But it's like,
Uh,
you,
There's a big portion of the Q course that's luck. Like,
portion, you know, but the fact remains that we hold ourselves to a slightly higher standard. Like I wouldn't quit. I would gonna keep going. And now, I feel like it's on me to kind of lead the way for my sons. So when I see, dads, whether it's giving their kids guff about making weight or however they perform while they're just tubs of goo, it drove me nuts. So I started operator mindset to kind of help dads out. And then I've slowly kind of meshed that into just kind of, hey, like whether it's physical fitness, whether it's nutrition, whether it's just leading at home, doing the hard things. Um, we talk about kids and screen time. Hey, are you on your phone all the time? Because if you are you really gonna be mad about them being on the tablet or whatever? So I started operator mindset and started kind of growing a little bit. And I tell you what, it's really meshed into is it's meshed into business, um, like business advising. So I did some work for a guy I know who's a lawyer, and he said, I'm having this problem, and I'm an 18 Fox, and I'm also a warrant. So I took his problem and I just kind of broke it down with MDMP. I was like, hey, have you tried like creating, two courses of action, kind of weighting some criteria, then coming together and wargaming? He thought it was a brilliant idea. And then it dawned on me that like our way of thinking, especially in planning and intelligence gathering world, can be used in the business world really easily. And I'm really, really passionate about that. I think it can be. So that's kind of where operator mindset is. It's kind of getting not lesser people, but outside entities to kind of think a little bit the way we do as far as planning. You know how hard we plan and how in depth we plan.
we do, but I wouldn't say it's a secret. It's just that you only know that because you did it. Now, up until you walk in the company, and no, that's not true. Up until you go to Robin Sage for the enlisted guys, and up until the 18 Alpha course, they do it the whole fucking time. But
Mhm.
really, for Robin Sage, is the first time everybody's exposed to everybody taking part in the planning process, and there's analyzing and targeting, and then you get onto a team, and then there's no fucking, well, there's attachments and things like that. You get some Sade guys, or you get some other secret squirrel things attached to you, but it's the Fox and the 180 planning. And it sounds like you were and are both of those things. So you're taking skills that, as I said, not secret. It's just that nobody knows about them,
Uh,
because you got to be part of the club, I guess, or at least in the know to know that we do those things. Whereas the regular army, that's a staff function,
yeah.
really. All officers, sergeant, I don't even know sergeant majors, but they're busy. But officer functions on the staff to do those sorts of things. And if you're not exposed to that world, if you never went on staff and you never did your time, which staff time sucks in the regular army, then you really don't know those things exist. So,
No, for
yeah,
sure. And I don't know if your listeners know, but like people don't really understand that what differs us from other special operations is the fact that we hold staff functions within the ODA as well as MOSs. You know, your S1, your Bravos, your S3, your S4. You know what I'm saying? So we hold staff functions as well, and then you translate that when you're in the planning process. You know, your S2 is your Fox. You know what I'm saying? So like people don't know that you switch back and forth depending on what's going on. So a lot of Green Berets have several functions, and they're all part of the planning process, as you know.
yeah, there are. It's just, I know I have a tough time. Well, I work to my strengths, right? I'll outwork the problem. And what I lack in dedication to using those processes, I'll just outwork it on the other side. So I work to my strengths. But hey, one thing I wanted to didn't want to skip over too quickly, before we get back into that, was, what do you mean by hypocrisy? And then you said making weight. Is that the hypocrisy you're talking about? Is parents not living up to the standards they're holding their kids to?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know. You know, I had sons kind of late. You know, my oldest is 9. So I just didn't realize that like these parents, these dads, and maybe this is just it's not just in wrestling, but I've seen it in other sports. They demand a lot of their kids, and they demand, you know, a nutritional base and an exercise base. You know, you were talking about being fit, you know, before the show. Like, yeah. So how would you feel if you know your son wanted to be elite at soccer or whatever, and you know you were giving him the guidance to be elite, and you're not elite, or at least trying to be elite? You know, it's the ultimate form of hypocrisy. And you know what I'm talking about because on an ODA, I equate it to this. I equate it to the 18 Zulu that's not out at training. Or, you know, the guy that's like, hey, you guys do this or that. You're running the obstacle course. You guys are doing the UBRR or whatever. Um, and he's watching. You know, that team sergeant is automatically thought less of in the eyes of his guys. Same thing works with
Yeah.
father-son relationship or anything. And it drove me nuts.
There's a lot of extenuating circumstances. I understand that. But I think people just get comfortable letting things slip just a little bit. And then once you let it slip a little bit, then it's easy to let it slip a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And it's that slow, what is it? The road to perdition, right? Is paved with good intentions. Well, that doesn't mean, it means actually people's, um, failure to act, upon those good intentions, right, is the road to hell. That slow descent. It's very easy to stay that course when it's a slow, steady descent. Whereas, like, it's much better to be a raging alcoholic, because you'll probably get into rehab much faster than if you go home and have four drinks every day, and it slowly ruins your life for 30 years, right? Um, that doesn't sound pleasant for anybody. And that's an extreme example. But in the end, it gets you to the end of the line faster to where you can seek recovery. So I think there's a lot of things that go into it, but wrestling is a tough one. But you're right. In youth sports, um, people, just like I kind of do with my show, though, live vicariously through their children and try to right wrongs or correct mistakes that they did or didn't make when they were kids that they want to make up for, or the father that wasn't there, or the mother, the kid, dad, parents that didn't pay attention to them. We're at an interesting generation and a time. And I had one guest on my show, Bruce Parkman, and he said it's so much different than it's ever been because this is one of the first generations, almost wholesale, where these children have known love their entire lives. Like his generation, he's in his 50s, I think late 50s, and he said generally from him and back, the majority, their fathers would beat him and they were terrible to him. I'm not saying everybody. Please don't fucking shit on me in the comments about that. I'm not saying everybody. It's like majority, these came from hard men that had hard jobs and they would come home and take these things out on their family. And that's just not how it is today. This
No,
generation is the parents in their parental roles now and the children that are in the sphere of influence have seen nothing but love from their family members, and it's just a different time. It's an interesting thing to think about when you think about it like that way, right?
it's true. I always try to be very gentle and loving with my kids. And my dad was kind of a hard ass too. He's a military man, but like I don't blame him for anything. I think I turned out pretty all right. But me trying to go about the way, you always wonder. You never know if you're going to be a good parent until the end of parenthood. You need to see the end result to know if you did it right.
Fuck, man. I equate that to a lot of things. I thought I was so shitty at being a GB, and now I have people tell me that I was wrong. That I that that's that was 15 years ago when I started the process, right? And now these things, that's a long time. 18 years for a kid, when they grow up and then they don't turn in, they're not, I mean, I was a douchebag until I was like 30, I think, or 30.
Right.
How old am I
It's
now?
me too.
I'm 30, 37, 38. So like 6 months ago, that whole time, terrible. So you're going to retire and get into advising people and passing on your skills. And but recently, you got introduced to me because you and Gravy were at University. What is it called? UHP?
Yeah, University of Health and Performance. That's that's a place run by Matt Hesse. And I guess I didn't really know what it was. Somebody How I found out about it's really strange. I found out about it on a deployment with a dying cell phone and an advertisement, and it said, we want to get retiring or retired service members personal trainer certified, um, and then help them, with careers after the military and fitness, which is how this all started. And I said, oh, that's pretty cool. So I checked it out. Um, and it was probably a month flash to bang that I learned about it, applied, got a red, white, and blue scholarship, red, white, and blue foundation, and then went there and just attended it. And I thought Grady was an ex GB or GB. He rolled in with a beard and he had been assigned a top bunk, and I just kind of looked at him. He was looking at it very distressed about it. I had a top bunk too, and I was like, I'm not sleeping on the top bunk. I'm too old to be doing that. So I found a bottom bunk, and he was looking at it, and I thinking he was a Green Beret. I was like, you just move down, man. And he's like, we allowed to do that? And I'm like, yeah, we're allowed to do that. Just go
Are
ahead.
we allowed to do that?
I'm like, well, I'm not doing it. They could, whatever. Um, and we hit it off right away. And he's like, I'm a VA cop, which I didn't know was a thing. I had no idea that was a thing.
I believe everything these days, man. The DMV has cops, believe it or not. They've got federal officers that work at the DMV. So I believe everything everybody tells me now until I find out that it's not true. So
Yeah, but we ended up getting, going through these courses to become personal trainer certified, working out together, just really hitting it off well. And he mentioned I mentioned to him a lot of my plans about like kind of training civilians in our mindset and our processes to be more successful, more streamlined with everything. I mean, he's like, yeah, you should check out this guy, and he pointed me to you, and I was like, oh, okay.
hey, check this weirdo out.
Yeah, well, I
Hey,
got to
where's up?
following you, and I was like, oh no, first group dude.
Hey, man, I nobody makes fun of nobody makes more fun of first group than I do. So there's
I know.
nothing you can say
I've
that I
seen your
haven't.
stuff, which is, which is funny
I
because the lead trainer guy out there at UHP is Hunter Sherber.
Yeah, I know
So
Hunter.
he was like your guys' Thor dude for the longest time, apparently,
Dude's
over in
fucking.
one man.
That's a strong dude. He is a strong, fit motherfucker for sure.
Yeah.
That dude knows
So him and
what
I
he
just
is
went
talking
back and
about.
forth. I love him, and him and I went back and forth about first versus seventh for 3 straight weeks.
That's awesome. Yeah, when I saw you out there, it also taught me what that was because GBF has a program. They're partnered up with them, and I see content. But I have this. I try not to, if I can help it, in and I shouldn't do this with actual stuff I can learn from. I try and limit the content that I take in. I try and only put it out because then it's all coming from me. So I'm not influenced by all the other shit that people are making. So I'm still sounding like me without being influenced too much by whatever goes out there. But I skip over a lot of useful things. So it's good. I saw you guys out there. I was like, man, it looks like what the fuck are they doing? Because I thought it was just like a rehab facility that you guys were going to, and you guys are doing workouts and shit and making content. And I'm like, well, this fucking looks. And then you get the end, we get everybody's got the photo opportunity with the certificate, and I'm like, these dudes are actually getting something out of this, not just fucking. This looks pretty cool. I was like, oh, it looks pretty fun.
Yeah, I thought it was a rehab place too. And they do have a lot of rehab stuff. They have like 4 saunas and like cold tubs and all kinds of things you can do. And you go through it and get a course. They have several courses, holistic wellness and all those things that they're offering out there. It's pretty legit. They've got a good thing going, and I really like it. And you know, Matt Hesse kind of briefed us on the plans to expand it and how he wants to go about it with getting more people out there and stuff. And it looks like a really cool thing. I just fly by the seat of my pants was grabbing at straws. You know how it is. Like thinking about getting out, and I'm like, well, I'll try this out. And it started with fitness because I like to stay fit also, and it's kind of bloomed from there. But no, it's a really cool place. I definitely recommend dudes getting out or dudes already out to go. I was the only soft dude really there, and then I was the only also active duty guy still there. So it was a kind of a culture shock for me at first.
Yeah, that's that is all right, kids. Another side benefit of becoming a fucking Green Beret is occasionally, while you're still in, you get to do crazy shit or fun shit that nobody else gets to do. Like go to university health, what is it called? Health performance in
Yeah.
Arkansas for 3 weeks. It's in Arkansas, right? For 3 weeks and just get you're a certified personal trainer now. So So, hey, yeah, it's a cool, rewarding job, and there's a lot of benefits, but there's also some really cool side benefits and shit too. But there are still shitty times, so you got to weigh everything with a grain of salt. But
For sure.
yeah, fuck. I mean, that's cool, man. You go hang out down in Arkansas for 3 weeks and be the only soft dude. At least you're bound to make friends and stuff, and now you'll be hooked up with those people for the rest of your life. I was looking at, I'm looking at the background of your guys' stuff, and I'm just counting station after station after station after station. I'm like 20,000, 20,000, 20,000. Like those weights are like the startup money and shit. And now you're saying they're going to expand. I was like, that's great, man. That's good. And it looks professional and really cool. I thought it was really cool. So that's cool. You got to go do that.
Yeah, I'm fired up. I mean, Pure Life sponsors it. Like Nestle Pure Life, the water, C4, the energy drink, which I think Matt Hesse has kind of a connection to or did. It's sponsored by a whole bunch of different. Beaver Fit did all their like inside stuff with Rogue, so it was super cool. Yeah, it was like Candyland if you like to work out. You loved it. I was having a blast.
Fuck, I love that shit, man. I went on a regular Army base a couple weeks ago at Fort McCoy. They had a beautiful setup, all brand new gym equipment. And I'm the only person in there. Like, this is great. I'm throwing shit around, making noise. I'm like, this is awesome. I wish I would have went in there fresh because I found the records board in the back after I worked out. I was like, I could have challenged these. I think I could have got all of them. Uh,
Yeah,
but another time, my next time to Fort McCoy, I'm going to take all the records if they'll let me. Uh, um,
McCoy. Wow.
you
As a
been there?
Wisconsinite, I've never been there, but
Similar training area to um, North Carolina, some dusty trails, a little bit more undulation. But it was 95 degrees and humid while we were there. Hot as fuck. It was miserable for those candidates doing their SFRE. Uh, they can keep it. I was just standing there in my cries, and I got my glasses on. You're trying to look cool, and underneath, I'm just soaked, and I'm in my head. I'm like, I'm fucking miserable, and this sucks, and I'm not even doing anything, and they're out there pushing logs and shit. I'm like, that's fucking blows. I'm glad I'm not doing that shit.
Yeah.
Let me tuck my beret out of my pocket so I look cool like everybody else. Uh, oh man, those days are
What's
over. But
SFRE? I saw you post something
so
about it.
yeah, hey man, isn't it wild? Like you can be in SF because we're active duty, and I get out and I go hang out with these National Guard guys, and I'm like, I didn't know any of this shit. I didn't know that you can like defect and go to the National Guard so easily, and they'll just take you in and stuff. So National Guard, they have an SFRE, a Special Forces readiness exercise to assess their potential candidates to go to selection. So civilians, Navy, all the branches, any rank or anything, officers as well. You can come over and try out. You have a pre-selection 3 days, and they'll assess you, and then they'll board you, and then they'll recommend either come back, we'll take you in, we'll train you up, we'll go to selection. You're ready for selection, not to return, uh, or come back in a year or something like that. I think there were 4 or 5 options, maybe 6. But yeah, they put them through. It was interesting to watch this detachment. They were squared the fuck away, man. They were squared away way better than the first interaction that I had with SF National Guard, who were not squared away. And these dudes were professional. The sergeant major had his shit tight, and so did the rest of the team, and it was fucking great to see. It was perfectly executed. It got too hot to have training. They flexed into the pool. I was like, this is beautiful. This is like, you know, it was one thing to watch it, but I knew all the parts of how all this shit fits together. It was just great to see, and I wish more people knew about it because I didn't even fucking know about it. Did you know any of that shit?
No, I'd heard
So
that there was something the National Guard does, and I was like, all right. But man, when you're active duty, you don't pay attention to anything else. Your scope of
no,
understanding
yeah,
is so small. Like people now that I'm starting to like come out on social media, people are like, oh, do you know this person? Have you heard of this person? Like famous people? I'm like, no, I don't know any of these people you're talking about. But it's funny you should mention that because I saw your photo and it was tagged as Madison. And like we were talking about before, I would like to relocate back to Wisconsin. That's where I'm from. And I was like, oh, I was so jealous. I was like, I want to be there with him. And like, I don't know what he's doing, but it looks pretty cool.
yeah, they were in Madison. I was up at Fort McCoy. I'm about 25 minutes south of Milwaukee out here.
Yeah.
So, you said you're looking northwest of Milwaukee, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking northwest of Milwaukee. We've already, I just want to kind of get away, man. Just like, the guy from Montana was talking about, like, we're looking at like 30 acres. Like, like Kettle Moraine State Forest, where like the, yeah, we're trying to like bump up against that. I just want to be away from everything and just be peaceful.
The episode that came out today, Corey Heaton, the bladesmith, he's out in the Driftless area, which is probably 4 hours from here, out in western central Wisconsin. And he's like, you can't see any lights. There's no neighbor. Like, it's beautiful. It's so quiet out here. I was like,
That's
man, that
awesome.
sounds so much fun. I'm not in that area. I'm kind of in the boring area, but there's a lot more stuff around here. I don't know. As I told somebody the other day on this show, I'm 1 2 minute call away from selling everything I own and moving out of the country at all times. Like,
Yeah.
if somebody
Yeah.
calls me with the right opportunity or the right job, I don't like any of this stuff. Just get rid of it. Like, I, I got one guy coming on hopefully soon. He works at Kruger National Park in South Africa. I was like, joking but not joking. I was like, you hiring, man? Because I'll fucking come out there. My wife's South African. I'll move there tomorrow. And he's like, he laughs. But
My brother lives in Milwaukee. He's
yeah,
yeah. I mean, whatever. But Walkie is walkie. We're just trying to get back to family. Like my wife and I haven't had like a date night in so long because like we're not. You got 3 kids. We're not anywhere near family, so it's like I just want a babysitter, man.
Well, you gotta get out first, right? And you gotta
Yeah.
get your path moving forward. And interesting though, Wisconsin. I mean, but if you wanna get away from stuff, you can't go to a city. I think that's why so many guys find Montana so appealing because it's starting to become more popular, but it's pretty desolate still. If once you get outside the cities, it's pretty quiet, and
No,
that's
I
the
have a lot of
same for
friends from
most of the
Montana.
country. Yeah,
And the one guest you had, like he was saying, I got know quite a few SF dudes that live in Montana. Whether it's way out in like a cabin, but I know quite a few. He mentioned Kalispell. I know a few that live there. I really love Montana. My wife kind of no-goed that idea based on its proximity to cities and us still having young kids. So she's like, when they're out of the house, then we'll talk about that. I'm like, all right, fair.
yeah, and that's real winter up there. That's
Yeah.
like Wisconsin, we've been hit or miss, but that's real winter. Like you're really going to get 6 months of winter up there. Down here, four-ish months of winter, I think, or somewhere in there. But not as bad as up there. But hey, people get used to that shit, man. So yeah, good on you. I hope it works out for you. But you're not planning on going into the personal training, or are you going to kind of try to combine personal or business coaching along with personal training?
Yeah. I just want to help dudes, but yeah, I'll go into the personal training world also. It's funny, man. You tagged me in a video you doing dips, and I reposted it, and I didn't know what I was doing, but a lot of people thought that was me, and like I have sleeves, but they were like, "Whoa, 3 plates!" I'm like, I can't do 3 plates. Apparently, he can. I can do like two and
Yeah,
a quarter, but I can't. I don't know if I could do three. I don't know. Or I might could, but it probably would only be for a rep or two. But that's what got me interested in talking to you because I was like, people think that I did that. No, it was not me.
hey man, whatever. Backwards cap and a broad back. People think, oh, who cares? Uh, I actually, for the clarify, not to pat myself on the back here, but it was actually 4 plates for 7 reps.
Yeah, 4 plates. Sorry.
Not to pat myself on the back too much there, but
That's even crazier.
oh, I thought it was even while I was doing it because I locked out and up at the top. I was like, okay, well, let's get two, and I hit two. I was like, God damn, I'm strong. Holy fuck. Let's just keep going and see there. But with the fitness side of things, man, all that stuff is, I try and put it out in a way. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not bragging. I didn't think I would get to this point. I did not think I would get this strong. But I really have dedicated myself to sleeping better, eating better, working out better, like more efficiently and better. Half of working out better was working out less, doing less, cutting my workouts down to the point where I was recovering more than I was working out. Um, and so there's a lot that goes into that. I'm sure they taught you about that in your classes and things, where it took me years of coaching myself to learn these things and listening now to podcasts and other people's advice on fitness and health, but really focusing on those. So I put stuff out. It's like 16 months ago, I quit drinking. I was bad, drinking a lot. I had a problem. And now you can turn it around. Like you can focus and get yourself in a better position. I can't tell you how to do that. Only honestly, you can tell you how to do that, because if you're honest with yourself, you can say, do I want to make a change? And if it's no, then you're not going to change. If it's yes, then you can make a change, and you can supplement with a coach, a dietitian, a personal trainer, a life coach, all these other things, and you can get people to help you, but you have to make those choices. I can just show you, hey, I had all these fucking problems. I was a fucking douchebag, and I'm trying not to be anymore. And that's what I'm trying. That's how I'm trying to inspire people, of just like, fuck, man, just the same state what things I say with SF. I'm just a regular kid from a fucking cornfield in Illinois, and I chose to do the things that I wanted to do. and I could have easily chosen to not do those things, and I would have still been a regular kid in Illinois, and that's okay. That's okay too. That's okay. So it's all a choice. It's all a choice. I've been uh, debating this because a lot of people they say there's two kinds of people, right? There's winners or losers. Basically, it boils down to winners or losers. Uh, I don't think that's true, man. I think there's one type of person, and they choose to go left or they choose to go right, and it works out for them. And it's all at a choice because at any time I can choose to go pick up the bottle again. There's a lot of bottles over there. I can choose to pick up that bottle again. I choose not to and continue down the path that I'm going on. And so that's what I try and do with the fitness stuff. Um, I'm just as impressed by it as everybody else that sees it. I cannot believe some of the things that I'm doing. So I'm having just as much fun. And I just kind of want people to also enjoy it because there's so many people that are fucking stronger than me. There's so many people. And I look at their shit and I go, that's awesome. I hope they're as happy with themselves as I am. You know, I hope they're happy when I see that shit. I'm like, that's awesome
Yeah.
that people can do
I'm
some of
with you,
those
man.
things.
I love fitness. I don't think I'm qualified to give fitness advice very well. In fact, a heckler last night told me if you're going to start a fitness page, be in shape, which I thought was hilarious.
What was, wait, on in the comments?
Yeah, somebody said that to me, and it. I got. I've been. I see. I'm not well versed in the online platform thing yet. So like, I take that seriously because I'm like, oh, keyboard tough guys. Like, I don't know what to do when somebody's talking smack over the internet. I'm like, hold on a minute. Yeah.
You're a decade behind
Yeah.
everybody on you see
Literally.
I agree with you. But because I just started in January really serious into Instagram and social media and all this other stuff. And yeah, you don't know how to deal with it right away when people will
No.
say stuff. And then I just go, wait a second. I just see this as an opportunity now to fuck with the algorithm in Instagram. How can I make a comment, reply to this person so that they'll comment again? If I can just like leave something to where they'll comment again, I can use this as an opportunity to make Instagram push my content for me. So if you can draw
Yeah.
these people into continuing to comment and then getting other people to continue these threads and these comments without being accusatory or even sarcastic. Sarcastic's kind of fine, but just not saying mean things. But if you can draw them into more comments and get other people, Instagram will push that content more, and you don't have to pay for ads. You don't have to, worry about collaboration stuff. It sees that people are engaging and it wants to show it to other people, and then you'll get more people off. So my advice, with my minimal experience on social media, is use it, those negative comments, if you're going to use them. If you can completely ignore them, great. That's probably the best. But if you want to use it as an opportunity to drive engagement towards your posts, and don't
Yeah.
and just use it as a business opportunity, as a tool in SF, right? Take your mind out of it.
Yeah. I have to learn to handle it because like I'm staring there looking at it, saying to myself, who is this person that would never say this to my face? Like, are you kidding me? Not a million years would you stand toe to toe with me on the sidewalk and start saying this stuff. But that's what the internet does to people. So I have to be okay. Now I have several friends in many different organizations other than our regiment that have fake accounts. And I learned this at UHP. They're like, oh, hold on a minute. So I had a bunch of my friends that have like shadow accounts where they just watch things, but it has no, and they would go and start fights with these people for me. So instead of just start pushing. Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, whatever you guys want to do, I guess.
That's I'm not at that level. I'm 100% all in on one account, and
Yeah.
I cannot have that. I have my personal one where I'll go and like all my own posts, but even now I'm forgetting to do that. So, but I do know, yeah, there's some big pages out there that are run by SF guys that are anonymous, and they'll be out there starting some problems. I've become friends with a few of them, and they're pretty cool guys.
Yeah,
But
I know a page, man, that a dude started back in the day when like Instagram was new in Afghanistan, and he started it to prove a point to his wife, who was trying to do the female fitness stuff, but she was showing risque photos. It was making him mad. Deployed to Afghanistan, he said, she said, you have to show a little skin to get followers. He said, no, you don't. So he started an entire anonymous page of just like guns and cool guy stuff to show how quickly he could gain. And do gain like 30,000 followers on like a 6-month trip to Afghanistan. Yeah. Just by showing nothing, no faces, nothing, just like pictures of a kit or pictures of a rifle. It's crazy.
Yeah, show them what the boys want to see, and they'll follow you.
Yeah.
If you just blur some faces, just a dude just standing in kit, and you blur their face, guaranteed engagement. Like,
there's a guy that's posted me a couple times, and all he does is post different like Sith Criff photos of blurred faces, and he's. I know this, and you'll laugh about this because he posted one, and it came back to me. My face was blurred, but I have a Milwaukee Brewers BDU cap on, and everybody was like, "There's nobody else in the regiment that has that hat." Like literally, there's no Brewers fans in the entire regiment. I'm like, fair. Yeah.
I mean, the boys know, but then nobody's gonna figure that shit out online. So yeah.
And I'm covered in tattoos, so you can like, mine are pretty obvious, but
yeah,
it is.
You can't stay hidden forever. And now, if you're getting out, really, you have to have some sort of presence on social media. So, and like I said, hopefully I can help you out, and hopefully we can get you on some other shows after mine comes out, and people will be like, "Oh, Restrepo, I'd like to hear that guy's story," and we can get you some more notoriety, because that's what it's all about. And because, man, I'm to where I am because people are helping me, and now I'm starting to get up on their level and things like that. And so all I can do to help everybody else, that's really all I care about, man. But
man, I'm just dipping my toes in the water because I told myself that I was never gonna be beholden to another organization. I love the Army, but the Army can't love me back, And I've been doing this for 20 years. She can't. It's just it's give and take. It sucks. She takes and takes and takes. And I did a trip a couple of years ago. I was gone for about 250 days out of 1 year, with different training and deployments and stuff. And I came back, and my son was like scared of me. He was like hiding behind the counter. And I thought, I will never do something like this again. I will do my time out, and my life is going to be devoted to them. So what you're seeing on Instagram with me is me trying to dip my toes into anything that will allow me to have a little bit of freedom and anonymity within my own timeline, and that's what I'm really searching for. And if it can help me, you had a great conversation with that first group guy, and talking about we're just regular guys. But what got me wanting to help other people is them thinking that we're something special because we made it through selection. Like you and I were born different. Like, no, it's all here, dude. Like if you decide you want to do something, get in shape, lose weight, do whatever, be successful. Like it's all up here. It's the star course, which sucks.
Most of the course sucks, but it was a lot of fun. Did it suck at times? Yeah, it fucking sucked. I did too. There was one day where it was the hardest fucking day of my life, but other than that, everything was pretty manageable. But like you said, yeah, the physical standards there, the mental, I believe it's way more mental than everybody makes it out to be on the physical side. But if you're a stud, it makes things a whole lot fucking easier. And that's stuff you can train. Like you can tangibly make yourself faster and fitter pretty easily. The mental side is a lot harder. Like it is harder to train yourself to suck. And as you said, when you're doing that for 20 years, because the Army, I've said it on the show many times, and you just brought it up. The Army doesn't give one fuck about you. The people you work with, they care about you, but the Army doesn't give a shit about you at all. You're there to do a job, live or die. And when you die, they will replace you, or retire, die. They will replace you with somebody else that will do the same job. Yeah, immediately. They'll promote somebody on the battlefield, right? They'll just bring somebody else.
That was across the fence, and he would go back and forth between us and the C-37 and across the fence and stuff. And he once told me, he said, because he was retiring, and I said, I don't know if I can leave this. This is my life. And he's like, man, there's like 5 pictures of you on the wall from different deployments or whatever. He's like, you'll leave and they'll talk about you here and there for 6 months. And then, new crew guys will come into the ODA, so on and so forth. And then eventually, a year and a half down the road, who's that guy? Oh yeah, I heard of him. 2 to 3 years down the road, nobody's gonna know who you are, and your pictures are gonna come off the wall and they're gonna be stacked, and you're gonna be a memory. It's like, yeah, you're right. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, unless you get killed in group, you're gonna get forgotten. I interesting point to that, right? Nobody knows. They'll some of the guys I served with that they remember me as a person, but the story, the one I told you before we recorded of me getting hurt, that story's still going around group. Like that little piece, but no, they don't. Nobody knows that was me. Like they don't remember that. So there'll be this some version of you, and only that's because shitty things happen. Because I almost died, and the other guys that did die, their pictures up on the wall. Those aren't coming down ever, as long as the unit's still active. But what was the quote I said the other day? Someday you're gonna die, and no one's gonna remember you. So do the things that you want to do while you remember you. Oh.
Yeah, no, for sure. The only thing that remains of me is the documentary Restrepo, Korangal, and I'm like one of the 4 people to be shot in the head and survive. So like,
That's fucking wild, though, man. That's like how, and that's like it's 2025 now. When I researched it, I thought for sure that documentary came out in 2005, 2006, and it's 2010. So 15 years ago now. Did you freeze up? No, you're still there. And I thought for sure, but that's 15 years ago. How much, and you went on to do much crazier shit. Not documented though, but to go to SF and go through the process and then go to a team and deploy during the global war on terror. But that's your introduction into the military is that, and it's fully documented. How crazy is that to you to think back on now?
it's crazy because of my story, man. So I was an X-ray that didn't make it. You were talking about this on one of your shows. I didn't make
So
it,
you're
and
you're my second guest. You're my second guest that's been an X-ray, went, said, or didn't make it, and then now is.
yeah, they said I was so immature. Which when I look back on it, I was. I'm like, I look back on how I was the first time in selection. I was like, oof. Now, physical specimen to boot, like I was great, but such a young idiot. And the roundabout way I got to Italy to the 173rd is so insane. Like I didn't have orders to Italy. I went and tried out for 525 fleurs on Bragg, and they were like, yeah, you're good to go. And I went back a week later to report or something, and they were like, oh man, you got orders to Fort Bliss, first cat. I was like, oh no. And I was with another failure who had orders to Italy, and he was married or had a pregnant wife or something at Fort Bliss. So he was freaking out because he was going to Italy, and I was not happy going to Bliss. So we got him to switch our orders. And I flew out to Italy and ended up in a roundabout way getting in this platoon, building OP Restrepo, for Dr. Restrepo who died. And all this stuff happened. And I was so that was my introduction to combat was that deployment what everybody saw and the amount of people that have come up to me later on in my career and been like, hey man, I saw your that documentary in high school and whatever, and like that's why I'm here in the army. I'm like, cool man, what do you say to that? I'm happy you're here, but
It's Yeah, we'll get into it later. It's like that, thank you for your service. If you're not ready for it and you don't have an answer locked in your head, it's fucking weird, right? And
yeah,
it's got to be weird because people messaging me like, I love your content. I love what you said about this person and had this guest on. And I gotta go. Thank you. I, I'm making all the content for you, right? But that's weird. I'm making stuff for them. Whereas you're in the army and they're like, go over there, build a hut, and then you're going to get shot at for a year and we're going to film all of it and we're going to release it to the whole rest of the world. And yeah, you got to deal with it for the rest of your life. That's fucking weird, man. That's fucking
yeah, it
weird.
was. It was. And I showed up to group and got the normal new guy treatment. Like I had to stand outside the team room and like, oh, it's this new guy that, this new guy this, and then the documentary. and I was getting the new guy treatment. And the documentary came out while I was at group, and dudes, the old timers started coming up to me and being like, is that where you just came from? That's you, right? I said, yeah, that's me. And I got a lot of credit for that, but I still wasn't cool. I wasn't a soft or SF guy cool. I had just sucked worse than any of them could imagine. Because as soft in Afghanistan, we had a lot of eyes on us. You got a lot of support. At Restrepo, nobody cared. Like we got slung load MREs for 16 months. And we had MREs for 16 straight months. It's like whether they were the winter ones, the LERP ones, or the regular ones, that's all we did. And occasionally they'd fly us up a mermaid here and there for like Thanksgiving, but that's what it was. And it was firefights day in and day out.
There's a lot of skipping around there. I want to just for mine because
Yeah.
we're going to get more into the weeds in this episode than I do in other episodes, only because of the documentary. Because there's a visual reference to some of the things that we're going to talk about, and so we're going to go in a little more into your feelings and things like that. But I want to get in the timeline right now because I know you've only seen a couple of my things, but I tend to gloss over combat mostly because that's not my show. I have no experience. I never went. I never got to go. I got hurt right when I got to the team, and I have no place commenting on people's combat experience and anything like that. I feel that's a policy that I have to uphold because it's not my place. It's not my place at all. So I stay out of it. And two is you start getting into stories and they start sounding all the same and they get real technical and people, you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like, things like that. So I try and stay out of it. So that's not my area. But as I said, we have a visual reference that a lot of people have seen and they don't know who you are. And now I've got you in front of me. So we're going to get a little more in the weeds, but I want to break down that timeline that you just condensed into 3 minutes there. When did you enlist as an 18 X-ray originally?
Four.
Okay. The wonder years, as we call them here on my
Yeah.
show. Just the worst years of Sopsy there were.
Terrible. You were at the old barracks by Pike Field where the gig pits were, and like the
The
cadre
gig
for Sopsy then were
the gig
like the
pit,
guys
full of piss and syphilis and shit.
full of
Yeah.
puke, and it was terrible. Like you got hazed bad. Like I never done anything like that. If you quit if you quit Sopsy back then, they had this big rock, this rock that had a face paint on a green face, and you had to, it said Mr. Yuck Yuck. You had to lift it up and kiss it and like declare that you were quitting, kind of like the bell at Bud's. I was a physical. It was so ridiculous, man. And it was all these old timers, man. Like three of my cadre for Sopsy when I first went through, they were on the picture on the back of the book. The only thing worth dying for, like the triple nickel 595 guys. They were like the original crew in. So you were like, um, and I was an immature idiot. I was a 20-year-old. I was stupid. I was so dumb and didn't know what I was doing. Couldn't remember anything about anything. All I knew is I could ruck and I could run. I could do PT like crazy. Um, but yeah, I enlisted and failed. It was a non-select. And then got a little bit of legal trouble at Bragg, obviously, because you're in like the hold about to not do anything for the rest of your life. Your world has ended. Like I wanted to be a Green Beret so bad. And yeah, I flew over to I flew over to Italy. I was in hold forever. I flew to Italy like January of 2006. If yeah.
Or we go to Sopsy. Everybody's got these horrendous Sopsy stories. And actually, it's only because it's happened today. The NCOIC of the original Sopsy detachment or cadre sent me an email today and he's like, blah, 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 blah. I'm the guy they're talking about. And I go, I want to have you on the show. You're
Yeah.
you're the guy that everybody hates that nobody knows. Not that but they have a lot of animosity towards you and like they don't even know you. So that's another lesser known operator. So he's coming on later, but yeah, there's stories out the fucking ass of those times, even through 2008, 2009. Because when I went through the students, they didn't speak very highly of it, the Sopsy guys, but nothing like in the early 2000s guys just getting shit on. I hadn't heard the one about the rock. I think people told me that there was the rock, Not that you had to pick it up and kiss it though. That's a different one. I haven't heard that yet before. So that's
Yeah,
disgusting.
I think that was a. I know it was a bell also, but The Rock, they briefed us on Mister Yuck Yuck, Yuck Yuck. I don't remember, but it was strange. And yeah, I mean, Sopsy, they would pull you out on like a Friday night of the barracks, this old like World War II barracks, in your like civilian clothes, and just smoke you in these like puke and piss infested pits. It was terrible. You're like leishmaniasis all your body. It's terrible.
One guy I interviewed the other day, he said Halloween. I think he said it was Halloween. They drug him all outside, smoked the shit out of him for 3 hours, the cadre, with his family in the minivan, shining the lights on him while they sat in there and
Yeah,
eating popcorn and shit. I was like, I said, and I was like, hey, let's just dissect that situation here. Like, what's going on at home where the family's like, yeah, this is normal, you know?
yeah.
Oh,
I've heard that story. I've heard the story about the family there.
I'm
Wow.
sure it happened more than once.
Yeah,
I've heard, there's some
yeah.
fucked
I mean,
up
it was
stories.
crazy.
Now there's some fucked up stories out there. There's some rumors and shit, but then you go, that can't be true. But then you start thinking about it, going, I worked with some fucking psychopaths. That's for sure is true. You know,
Yeah,
absolutely. Back then when priority was war, that's not the case now. Um, yeah, I can see all that shit happening, all of it, all the time. Fucking full sail, and then being swept under the rug. Absolutely. So, yeah, for better or for worse, that shit probably all happened. So, all right, that happens. Failure happens, and it's just, I mean, even more unbelievable that you made it to where you are now, going through all that. So, we got our first setback. We fumble through getting some orders. What's it like walking into, you know, 173rd in Italy, and what's First Sergeant got to say to you? Is there, because do they know they're getting an 18 X-ray reassignment?
they knew. I was a physical specimen. They knew that I had a little bit of training. You know, I wasn't brand new, so I got sent to the scout platoon tryouts and made it. And they quickly found out I was immature as well. So yeah, I spent like 3 months in that platoon, and then I actually got like relieved of my spot on a sniper team at a training event in Graf, Germany. Oh, it was terrible, brother. It was. I was like a spotter for this like really, and these dudes had a lot of them had done the jump, the 2003 173rd jump in Iraq, which like a lot of people discredit. 10th group discredits it a lot. Like, oh well, the airfield was secure. The thing is, there's hundreds of E1s through E4s that made that jump with everything full combat load and had no idea. They jumped, they stepped out of a bird in the dark thinking, this is it, you know? So I don't discredit it. And there's a plaque in the battalions of who's ever, that jump was their sixth jump. You imagine that? So there was a lot of hardened vets in the St. Third. Yeah.
And then there was you.
Yeah. They'd done the '06 trip to Arghandab. And then, like, I got there. I was the spotter for the sniper team, and we're like traipsing through the woods during a live fire, and I had everything tied off, lens caps tied off to spotting scopes, tied off to belt loops, and here I am hung up in the trees like a marionette, just like can't move, whimpering to myself. And this first sergeant says, you know, just berates me. I'm gonna get people killed and blah blah blah. The next day, my stuff was packed and I was out with the scout platoon on my way to second platoon battle company. And but hindsight, you know, brother, is that I got to participate in that deployment, which nobody else, you know, the other companies had it bad. The scouts didn't, you know, they moved around a lot, but like I will never take away from the universe's plan for me, you know. It sent me to OP Restrepo, and it sent me to that 16 months in that combat, you know, and being friends with, you know, Sal Junta, who won the Medal of Honor, and being on that operation with him, Rock Avalanche, and like it was the time of my life. And then when it was time for me to go back to SF, because I was sure of it, I was going to go back. You know, the whole time at Restrepo and in the one center, I was like, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go to Ranger School. I'm going to do all the things I wanted to do, and just to fast forward, me going through selection later on in worse shape than I was the first time, was nothing. After having done an OP Restrepo in the mountains, like I moonwalked through selection. I thought like, well, I'm not getting shot at. I'm not. This is not terrible. This is actually not that hard, you know, because I had just done 16 months of just gross suck. Um, but
Not jumping too far ahead though, but did you feel like you grew out of that immature over those 16 months? You're like, that's done. I'm done with that now.
yeah, I did because I started realizing, yeah, why do we join SF? You know, why do we come in from the road? You know, you have a dream, whether it's a pipe dream or not. I'm gonna wear the Green Beret, much like dudes that want to be SEALs or whatever, and you want to be the best. And we had a group, we had an ODA come up and visit us at Restrepo, and they could not believe the way we were living. They came up for a couple days and they were just looking at us and they're like, "What are you doing out here?" And we're like, "I don't know. You're just doing infantry stuff." And we were sitting by a burn barrel that we had made with like Hesco wire, and they were like, "This is like Korean War stuff, guys." And we're like, "Well, it's every day for us. We don't care." But I was doing something. I was guarding something, and we had come down to do a mission in Neurostan or somewhere, and there were GBs there, and I thought they were so cool. They had beards and BDUs, and I was like, "That's." And I was standing in the rain guarding something, and he looked at me on a four wheeler, and he's like, "21 days to a better life, homie." And like, shoot, say less, dude. you know, say less. And he like rode off, and I was like, "Yep, that's my destiny." But again, to reiterate, like I don't take away what the universe had in store for me. I had to mature, had to get shot in the head. Apparently, maybe that did it. But being in that combat, being around those awesome dudes, because I've done nothing comparatively. Everybody has built me up. I can rattle names off of the people that have made me the man that I am. Whether it's through mentorship or counseling, NCOs after NCOs from the regular army to SF. I owe it all to other dudes, because I would still be that immature, just fool thinking, wanting the glory and wanting the beret or the tab for whatever reasons. But Restrepo brought me back down to earth, and I'll forever be thankful for that experience. And they helped me pass it and be successful. All those NCOs at Restrepo, that you can see on the documentary, they made me. They built me up to be the man I am.
And when we say 16 months, did you all know it was going to be 16 months when you stepped off or to head out there? Because that's a long time.
Yeah, no, I don't think we thought it was going to be the 12 that the infantry got, and then there were rumblings about extensions and extensions, and we were like, okay, well, if 15 or 16 months, yeah. And we knew an extension was coming, or we'd heard it somewhere around maybe month nine, and we are like, yeah, whatever, like this is what it is. But Restrepo was a terrible blessing because we all bitched and moaned, and it was, yeah. I mean, first we didn't have beds, and then we had cots, and we dug all day and fought and dug and fought, and we just traded places. You guys were on guard and shooting back. You guys have the pickaxes, and you're filling Heskas and sandbags, and it went back and forth for months and months. But there ain't a guy from that OP that wouldn't go back in a heartbeat. I know that. I love it there. I have these people talk about our dreams and stuff from combat. I have this weird reoccurring dream where I'm walking back up, and they're all like waiting for me. That's my dream because you know that's it's a really sentimental place for a lot of us. But 16 months is a long time, dude. Like two World Series had happened. I came back and I was like, oh, um, the Rockies won a World Series. I was like, oh, and the Red Sox, and it was like the whole world had changed that after that much time. It's crazy.
Because you guys aren't part of the world there where you're at. You're completely cut off. You
Yeah.
walked. Let's paint a little picture for the people listening to this. You guys walked into a mountainside and built a very small forward operating base in the mountains of Afghanistan and had elevated position terrain around you, pretty much all around you, right? So You guys built all of your structures, brought everything in with you, got everything dropped off by helicopter, sling load, right? And did all this under constant uh, enemy fire
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah. So like,
like all the time.
yeah, there was an outpost at the base of the valley called the Korangal outpost. We called it the cop, the double number. But they were getting shot at from that area constantly. So our job was to actually go and build this OP in their fighting positions, which we did. There were dugout fighting positions with AK and PKM shells in those from where they would shoot down. We just took over their fighting positions. That's all we did. Took over their slit trenches, took over everything where they used to fire at us, and we were still surrounded on all sides by higher elevation, higher terrain. But and we just overnight we put up an outpost, and we kind of dug it in. It was like in this like half a bowl, and we dug it in. And I remember the first night, you got there to the base of the valley, and they're like, empty your rucks, and they brought just piles of pickaxes and shovels and sandbags. I'm like, all right, get ready to go up. You're like an MRE, some water, a bunch of ammo, and empty sandbags, and a pickaxe sticking out of your rock. You're like, okay, sick.
That's hard to imagine. The absolute might of the United States military, everything that we had at our disposal at that time, and they're handing a bunch of 20-year-old kids pickaxes, weapons, and going, "Hey, I need you to go pick into the side of this mountain and set up a fighting position, and hey, you two pull security, and I'm gonna go do the same with these guys over here. Try not to get shot, guys. All right,
Yeah.
shoot what, and then also like, what are your rules of engagement? Like, if you see somebody, can you shoot, or are you shooting back to defend yourself, or like at this time? Because everything changes once you get into a different mind state later on. But what are your rules of engagement right away?
Yeah, right away it was fired upon. They had the kind of sliding rule of cell phones slash walkie talkies. But as a young infantryman, you were like, hey, if they posed a threat, we fired at them. Now we were so far away from everything that eventually you got to like recognize fighters that you might not have gotten at one point. It was so far across the valley, and then like that's that same guy that was shooting at us, earlier this morning. But if you looked suspicious, you were getting shot at, and they were all over. So we returned fire a lot. But the thing is, we got shot at. We didn't have to really make the judgment call because we were just getting. You would clean your weapon, brother. You would be like cleaning it after a fight, and then you'd hear the crack of new rounds coming in, and you hoped that it wouldn't escalate more because you just cleaned your saw. You're like, come on, come on, man. Like really, so you wait, like I'm gonna wait for a burst. This might just be a one or two shot. And then when the burst kicked, you're like, "Ah, come on, you know. Um,
That bolt
but
back in there and go to town.
yeah, so you just went to
Ugh.
town. We cleaned weapons, and you were either on like North Korea hard manual labor where you're picking at the side of the rock and filling HESCO barriers, or you were on guard, or you were on patrol. You ran like a three-way combo, and then kept your guard up. You slept when you slept, but for the first couple months, it was on the ground. We have funny pictures of guys just kind of digging themselves into rock, and then eventually a helicopter slung us some cots, so we were just like kind of tucked in behind the headstones on cots. And months went by, and we started getting wood, and we started getting different things slung to us. But again, you couldn't drive it there, so everything we got was dropped off by a Chinook or a Blackhawk in those sling loads. Which funny story? If you do touch a bird in air, it will indeed zap you.
Yeah, you're grounding yourself. Yeah, you're fucking gonna fuck you up. That's your physics lesson of the day for your lesser known
Yeah,
operators
it
listeners.
came down
Don't
a little
fucking
hard.
do that. Don't
Yeah,
fucking do
don't
that.
do it. It came down hard, and I put my hand out and touched the wheel hub, trying to get a sling, a Q-tip, that hold the sling off, and it zapped me, and my chest hurt. Like I'm laying back. I was like, oh no.
You're lucky. You're lucky. That can kill you. Um, okay, and God, I mean, what kind of element are we talking about? How many soldiers, American soldiers, are up at OP Restrepo?
So the most we ever had at one time was probably 22, but usually it was two squads and a gun team, like half two squads and a heavy gun team was up there at any given time. We'd have a medic and an FO or two. Um, but you're looking at like 15, 16, 20 guys at any given time working this problem set. Now, when we were first in placing it, it was more. We needed all hands on deck. But just digging,
Yeah.
man.
And you guys, what season? And I don't mean time of the year, and because you'll come to see or hear in Afghanistan in the years, there's fighting season and then there's the off season also. So, what time of year and what season did you guys start working on it?
So we got there. We started working on it in the middle of fighting season, so like June, July.
So, just everything
Yeah,
stacked against you.
yeah, and it was like that year in September of that year. I remember reading something. I've told this to a couple of people, and I can't you can't quote me again, TBIs and stuff, but they had these people that were walking around Italy after we got back, and they claimed to be from the Department of the Army, the Historical Society. As an E5 or E4, I was like, okay, but they said I remember hearing one of them say in September of that year, you guys got in 111 ticks and 14 on September 11th of that year, and I said, I remember that day. That day sucked. 14 ticks that day. It was pretty nerve wracking. But but again, we had great NCOs. We had man, that platoon was just something else. Hardened by everything we had to do together. You know, you had to walk up this thing. It was like a 2 hour walk. I think my friends will correct me, but there were points in that walk where there was ropes on trees hanging down. You had to like pull yourself up like the lowers of mountain school. You know, so that walk sucked. And as the months went on, the commanders had to force us to come down to, call wives or mothers for anniversaries or birthdays and stuff because nobody ever wanted to come back down because of the walk. You'd get shot at walking back up, and just nobody wanted to leave there because it was too much of a hassle to get back up. You just hung out up there.
Yeah. You just don't want to get out of the suck, right? I'd rather just stay here in my position than go take that unknown journey because a lot of shit can happen. Because you've got your patrols. Are your patrols on a regular schedule? And who's directing these patrols to go out, and where are they directing from? Do you have an officer with you guys, or are they down in the corner?
Yeah, yeah. We had a PL with us pretty much the entire time, or the platoon sergeant. Again, really good dudes, really knowledgeable, awesome guys, and they briefed their last 48, next 48, or whatever it was. As a younger guy, I wasn't in the planning process that much there, but whether it was ambush sites, blocking positions, all kinds of stuff. We did all kinds of stuff. We knew a lot of them were routine ambush sites or blocking positions, just waiting to see. Because that valley, a lot of people don't know, was a major hub, and they would transport all kinds of weapons and stuff like that through there, and they would pack it in these like lumber shipments. So you wouldn't be able to tell. So we were just blocking everything coming in, trying to figure out what was going on through that valley. But we knew once or twice a month you had like a really bad patrol, which was way down deep in the valley, past the grid lines that we knew was like the no man's land, and we knew you're like, oh man, this is gonna fall on me. Like my squad's gonna be this one, and you were not happy about it because it was like a 4 hour walk, and you're like, we're gonna get lit up here, you know.
Yeah, and you got to carry enough because the only, I guess your QRF, you would say, they would have to walk to come get you, right? So you
Yeah,
have to be able to support yourself in a sustained firefight. So you're carrying double or triple basic load.
pretty much triple. You had so much 240 ammo. You carried saws, 240s. You carried so much ammo. It's funny, brother. When I got to SOF and they're like, yeah, 5, 6 mags. I was like, because my norm was like 15, easy. Like I had little backpacks with just more mags everywhere. And when you get to SOF, they're like, yeah, 8 most. Because we have speedballs ready to drop off, and I was like,
That's so for people listening at home, basic load for a rifleman is 7 or 8 magazines. Seven on your person, one in your rifle. That's a basic load. Triple basic load would obviously be 3 times that. So you've got 2 more full in your rucksack. for a 249, which is a squad automatic weapon, a saw. It's a fully automatic, fires a 223 or a 556, and a 200 round drum. I think basic load is 800 rounds or something like that. And then you would have another 1,600 rounds in your backpack. That's getting pretty fucking heavy. And then you get to the 240, which 240 fires a 7.62 by 51. Now I'm gonna get shredded in the comments because I'm an idiot. But I hope I get shredded in the comments. Hit me up, guys. Anyway, so
It's 50.
the gunner only carries the gun in training. And then you have a AB who carries all of the ammunition. I assume you guys were having the gunner carry rounds also along
Yeah.
with the AB. So you're running triple or quadruple basic load for that because that is your most casualty producing weapon. And if you guys get in trouble, that's going to get you guys out of the trouble. I assume that's what your guys' plan was.
Yeah. Yeah, we had tons of that. We'd have obviously, frags. More often than not, we had a 60. We had a 60 team would come with us, and so they've got a tube in the base plate. And I remember thinking to myself at one point, like, it was a good patrol if I didn't have to take like 360 rounds. I was like, sweet.
So we got another 15 pounds each rounds that you're hanging around. So you guys are in hundreds of pounds. All right. So like I said, I don't want to overstep my bounds on combat here, but this is just basic knowledge that they teach you in the Army and in SOF and things like that. So, weight. You guys are going on patrols and carrying an immense amount of weight, immense amount of weight. And so go back to where you're at. For everybody listening that hasn't seen the documentary, I recommend you go watch it. We are talking about a rise on this terrain of thousands of feet over hundreds of feet. So these are very steep mountains that you guys are in, and you're walking down and you're winding around and trying to make your way through these things, carrying all this weight, and you're going to get shot at. So, like, you guys are on a rotation. This is always going through your mind because you had said, "Man, I don't want to go on that patrol, or I want to go on this," because you're just, God, and you're living on MREs, and you're like,
Yeah.
just fuck. Are you just
Yeah.
like fuck all the time?
Well, that's the thing is that like I would love to give props to the senior NCOs that had done trips before because they made it seem like that was normal. And the new guys, I was like, well, this must be war. Like, this is what Afghanistan is like. Everybody must be doing this. And I never got an inkling from the older guys that it wasn't that way until we started getting rotated out for leave because we all got like leave here and there once during the trip. And you'd be at like Bagram, Kandahar talking to other units, and you're like, what? They were like, yeah, we'd like to get a case of Red Bulls before a mission. And then somebody was like, if they're not out, a lot of times they're out. And you'd see like we're starting to tear up, like, wait, what? You get Red Bulls? Yeah. So we didn't know anything was different until vastly later. I was like, oh, this was kind of bad. And then the guy making the documentary, he kind of told us, he was like, hey, they're using like 80% of the ordnance for the whole country here. We're like, and you're like Valley. I'm like, oh,
And
okay.
and that's why I'm trying to say this. This is not was not normal across. That's why this documentary stood out so much to people, even people in the service, even people deployed that had been to combat in similar locations but not the same, right? And you guys, as we said, have a fucking film crew living with you, and they're not
Yeah.
armed, right?
No, not at
They're
all.
just with fucking cameras, living with you guys, getting in the exact same amount of ticks that you guys are getting in. That means troops in contact for if you guys don't know at home. So that means we're taking contact from the enemy. We've got to fucking act accordingly. And they're just fucking standing there going, man, I really hope I don't get fucking shot in the face today.
Yeah. Yeah. Early on, they were in our way a lot. Like you'd see them if they were ever to publish all that footage, you'd see them like getting whisked out of the way. And then as they hung out with us for longer, they kind of realized where they could stand and how they would get the best shots, and they were good. But we didn't take to them right off the bat because we'd known that reporters were the enemy and they burned a lot of dudes deployed. So it took a while for us to kind of warm up to them. And when we realized that they were bros, like they were cool. They became family because they went on every mission. They ate MREs. They slept on the rocks. They did everything with us. And we're like, okay, man. They were fine. One was a Brit, so he was super cool. Tim Hetherington, rest in peace. Even Sebastian Younger, who was the main guy, he had different political views at the time, and we knew it. But I would do anything for that man. He was there with us the whole time, and he supports us in the brotherhood. But yeah, we would mess with them. They didn't have night vision. The PBS 14, so they'd come on night patrols, and me and dudes from the platoon would act like there was a tripwire or an obstacle, and then watch them fumble around in the dark because they couldn't see what was there. So like stepping over a wire and stuff like that. We messed with them, but they became family, and we had no idea. So they were coming up with magazines and telling us what was happening in the States and what people thought. Because when they first came out, we were like, "What are you doing here?" And they're like, "Well, the American people want to know about what's happening." So Vanity Fair, and I can't remember. I can never remember if it's Nightline or Dateline. Nightline, I think. But yeah, they said we're doing a piece called "The Valley of Death," um where's the worst fighting in Afghanistan, and a lot of people don't know, but it's where Operation Red Wing happened. Also, that was right down the valley. So the valley already had its allure. It's like its aura about it. It was just not a good place. So they told us, we're like, yeah. And then when they left, did the whole Vanity Fair article, did the piece, and then they came back a month or two later and like, hey, the American people loved it. They want more. We're here to do a follow up. So the follow up article was Return to the Valley of Death, and we're like, oh, sick. And then they left again and came back, and we were like, oh, joking like, they want more. And like, no, we're out here on our own accord. We took out a loan, and we want to just hang out with you guys and do our own thing. I'm like, oh, right on.
They got to
So
be bros. They got to be bros, right?
yeah,
Because that is okay. I mean, you can tell me how you feel. That's got to be a traumatic situation all the time, like all day long. You're just
yeah.
in one trauma to the next, to the next, to the next, and we haven't touched on it yet. And I do want to give some. So the namesake, Restrepo, that happened early on, and you guys experienced that loss pretty early in your establishment of the OP, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Restrepo was killed, and I wasn't very close with him. He had done a lot of the training with the platoon when I was still in scouts and going through all that. So I didn't. I knew him because I remember the day he got his citizenship. He had a cake, and he was super fired up. And we talked and we bullshitted. But once he got killed, and I wasn't there for that. They named the OP once we got up there. They knew they wanted to name it after him, and it was fitting. Um, it's funny, having not known him very well, but living up to what we call it OP Restrepo, it's after him. I actually went, and being in seventh group now, he was Colombian, so I went and visited his family later on. Once I got to seventh group, I found out where his family was and went and talked to him, and that was a really cool experience.
it's crazy. That's crazy to go through that, live there for that long, and then rise to a place where now I can go here in official capacity as I've gotten to a place in my career, and you can go and meet the family and meet with them. What was that like for you?
It was awesome. We went out, we ate, I ate with them. And it's funny because Restrepo is a really common name in Colombia. So it took me quite a while to figure out where his family was. And I was doing a lot of work with the Colombian army. So I would see the name tape and be like, yep, I talk to you. But it took me a really long time to narrow down where he was from. And they were really happy. They were happy that I had reached out, and I was like, well, I'm here, and I wanted to meet his family and talk to you guys. And they were really honored. They were super proud that he had gotten citizenship and that he had served in the U.S. Army. They were proud. They were great people. It was really cool meeting his family.
I can only
One of his
imagine.
cousins was in the Colombian Army, so I got to hang out with him a little bit.
And you got to train with his family member, and if that's really cool. That I really don't have anything to say for that. That's unbelievable to me. Where life takes us in places, just like us sitting here and having this conversation. Completely amazing to me that we're both sitting here having this conversation in the same way. So
Yeah.
I
Oh man.
that's amazing for you. I'm glad you got to go do that. And wow, that's fucking amazing. So back, what was it like coming out of the fighting season and going into winter? And you're like, wow, obviously, it's everything when you're fucking warm out, when it's warm. Life is different, but we're talking Rocky Mountains fucking winter, right? You're coming into with no amenities. And when did reality start to set in the winter? Like, we're in fucking 1846 out here, and this fucking sucks.
Yeah. It was terrible, man. The winter, and I'm so thankful that my leave was right over Christmas. I'll always be upset that I missed the Christmas photo at Restrepo because my leave went right over Christmas. And but I remember we had the big Operation Rock Avalanche, which is in the documentary. It's the one where Sal Junta ended up getting the Medal of Honor. We had a couple casualties, and it was a huge operation. But it was so cold. We didn't realize we were going up another 4,000 feet in elevation, and a bunch of us did not pack correctly, and we ended up sleeping in body bags those first couple nights of that operation. And if you don't know, body bags are completely sealable. So when you zip them up and then you breathe in them, we were waking up like there was like three people in a body bag because they're pretty big. So all of our breaths were condensating and dripping on our faces. And but that's when we knew that was in October of that year after the September, and we were like, okay, this is getting pretty bad. And then we didn't know what winter was going to be like up there. We had an idea, and then we started getting snow, lots and lots of snow, and started getting cold. And young Joes were like, hey, that's okay because patrols will slow down. We'll be able to take a break. And I'll never forget seeing the helicopter with the snowshoes in the sling drop offs. Like, yeah, big Arctic trekking snowshoes. And we're like, oh, are you kidding me? You gotta be kidding me.
Guess what you guys are gonna go do? You're gonna go
Yep.
do patrols
Trudging
with
through the snow
fucking
with them big old like triangle snowshoes. And
demoralizing was that.
it was terrible. You like that was the end of your world. But like I said, earlier, you made it 1 minute at a time, one day at a time. Like you were pumped if you got the MRE with the dairy shake in it. Like you were like, it's gonna be a good day. you
Taste
know?
it still, yeah. Um, and this is all just, and it's, I got to imagine it's all just starting to become completely normal. You're starting to lose touch with reality. That
Mhm.
this is, I live here now. I live here. Like, and again, I just want to reiterate, the rest of the army is not going through this. There's very few units going through this. Like the guys down in the base, down in Korangal, can you see them from where you guys are at?
Really, under
Okay.
glass you could, but you could just see like rustling around. You didn't know what was happening down there.
So they've got it, bad. You guys are up here much worse. Um, but the vast majority of the military is not under these conditions, right?
Yeah, no, nobody was going through stuff like that. And I'd heard about different stories early on in the war with like the original ODAs, and then obviously we would hear about like big gunfights in Iraq, whether it was Sadr City or whatever. But nobody was going through just the suck, the whole cumulative effect of like you are now eating MREs every day. You have one magazine. It's like a 2005 issue of Diesel Power, which you all just get to pass around until everybody has it memorized. You know, and you're just doing this day after day after day. And like I said, all credit to the senior NCOs. They know who they are, like because they were like, yeah, it's combat, it's war. I was like, oh, it must be. And in my mind now, I don't know for sure, but I'm like, surely you knew this was different, and you just didn't let on. Like a parent that doesn't let on about the tooth fairy or whatever. Like surely you knew, and you were just playing it off. Good job on you guys. Because I thought it was completely normal, you know. And my buddy Misha, he went to go on leave, gets off the bird, Kandahar, Bagram, whatever big base is there, and gets yelled at on the flight line about his boots being like having crusty blood on them or something, telling him he's got to go to the PX to buy new boots. Unbeknownst to him, there's a PX there. He had no idea, but they were like, "Hey, you can't look like that, on Disney Drive or whatever." He was blown away. I'll never forget that story being like, "Oh, they made me buy a new uniform and boots and stuff for his 3 days at the PAX terminal waiting to go on leave." People had no idea what we were doing out there.
That's a story. That's something right there. That little bit that you just said that is difficult for people to understand, or that big base. Um, and I wanted to do you remember a couple months ago when Sergeant Major of the Army said he hit that little voice clip. He's like, I've been to combat, but I haven't been to war. And I was like, man, that's a real clickbaity thing to say. I know he didn't intend it to be that way, but that's a real clickbaity thing to say. And I was thinking about while I was taking these notes, you guys didn't have a fob to go back to. You guys lived where you fought for all this time. And then you'd made that right. He had to go back to Kandahar, Bagram, right? Massive base. Um, and buy fucking shoes so that he fit in on this massive base, which is also forward deployed in a combat zone, right? You guys are at war. They're flying, they're going out to combat, if at all, right? It's completely that's the dichotomy of the two things. You're in
Yeah,
the same combat area. What do you think about that? Like when did you hear that when he said that? And what did you think about that?
I did hear that. And I had some thoughts about it because I was like, well, I'd beg to differ. But I'm always, I'm like, all right, I want to know what because I met him. And I'm like, I want to know what he considers war. If he's considering, D-Day and the Battle of the Bulge, okay, I couldn't tell you. I'm brought back to a story, that I'll share. And it was when Sal got his Medal of Honor. I was fortunate enough to go to the White House and everything and participate in the ceremonies and stuff. I had just gotten a Green Beret, so it was a lot of 173rd guys, a lot of airborne infantry, and I was the only Green Beret there. And so I stood out a little bit, but I remember being at the Sergeant Major of the Army at the time. It was a different one at his house because he holds a dinner, and all living Medal of Honor recipients show up to this. And you're all in your Class A's, and you're walking around. And I was standing there talking to an older gentleman he's going over his story, talking about like bayoneting the Viet Cong and like loading bodies onto a bird and all this stuff. And he's like, "So tell us about your trip." And we're like, "No, there's nothing to tell, man. We're just gonna go over here and eat some shrimp." you know. So I think it's a give and take. But I remember when the Sergeant Major of the Army said that, I was like, "Well, it depends on how you define war, because if you want to talk about fighting and suck and not having the support you need, like, yeah, there's 30 some odd of us that really, really remember that. And the same with First Platoon, the same with Chosen Company, with the Battle of Wanat that just happened on the anniversary of the 13th of July. So there's a lot of dudes that did support it. And he was special operations for a really long time, so maybe they always had the support. But I'm also taken back to this: the amount of times we lived up there like Lord of the Flies at Restrepo. We would not shave. That picture of the dude in the I Heart New York boxers fighting. Do you remember that when that came out? That was on a HESCO that I filled. I never forget that because they came and replaced us, and then he got in the newspaper, and the documentary hadn't come out. And I was like, I filled that HESCO. Now he's getting all the glory with his stupid pants, you know. But because we built that, he was at Restrepo, and so nobody really knew. But these VIPs would come in, and we'd get the call on the radio, "Hey, shave, put a uniform on," because we fought with t-shirts on and our the old IBAs. Um, So they'd call up and they say, "Hey, we're gonna need you guys to shave and like clean up there because somebody's coming up to see you." And the amount of times, brother, that the brass would land down at the cop in an aircraft, look up, and we'd be watching on glass, and the commander would be briefing them, and we'd see him point up there. There's OP Restrepo, and we knew he wasn't gonna walk it. So all right, well, we'll see him next time. Tell him we support him, and we'd be sitting up there freshly shaved, like, damn it, you know.
I had a good beard going, and now
I know.
I just have razor burn.
Your pants were so gross and sweaty that you could stand them up on their own. They'd just be like crunchy.
What is your because you're getting to go home on leave, and that's got to be I I I can't offer anything on that. What is that like to go from as I said, you're living in the 1800s with 2005 weapons, to back to home, and then always in your mind, uh, I got to go back to that. What's that transition like?
It's tough. It's tough, brother. Like, you go through this like castaway moment where you're like staring at a toilet and toilet paper, and you're like, God. You're like, I'm just gonna sit on this thing for a while because we shit on two Mark 19 ammo cans that were inversely placed on 4 picket poles. So they kind of like they came in like this, and so you went home, and man, I wasn't a drinker and I wasn't crazy partier, but for 2 weeks I was. I let loose. And the whole time you're just dreading going back. I feel bad for saying that now, given how I feel about those men in that place. But I was like, God help me. I could just break my leg by accident, you know? And once you get back, for some reason, it's funny because we were on a rotation for leave. And when you're gone, you're living it up, but you're always terrified of the flight back. You're like counting the minutes. I was like, oh, God, one more day. But then the boys made it cool because you're walked back up. When you're walking back up with a full ruck of like goodies for the homies, they're sitting on the Hescos like cheering you on, and they're like, "Yeah, how was it?" And I have that image in my mind on how great that was to hear their voices and to see their faces. They're all dirty and gross still, and like there was a guy who was going to leave in 3 days to do his rotation, and you were like, but you were coming up there with just like a rucksack full of Twinkies and everything you could possibly bring them. Your ruck had nothing in it but tobacco, so much tobacco. You were bringing real Copenhagen and real cigarettes for the homies. So they put enough weight on you to make it worth it. But it sucked. It sucked going back. And I'm a diehard Green Bay Packer fan. So on the flight from the States back to Restrepo, the announcer over the plane was like, "Do you want to know what happened with the NFC Championship game? The Green Bay Packers lost to the New York Giants, and Brett Favre retired." And I like wanted to cry. I was like, "My life is over."
I just came out of combat, and this is the worst thing to ever happen to me.
Yeah, Brett Favre retired. Like, well, nothing's ever going to happen good again.
Or he'll be back.
Yeah,
That's a really cool thing, right? Walking up the hill, your buddies cheering you on, and they're just because probably not a lot changed while you were gone, right? They were man down, and fighting kept going on. The probably conditions didn't change overall too much, but you just dipped out for a little bit, come back bearing gifts, and that's got to be really, really cool because you're a family now, right?
yeah. It was great.
More so than, and this is kind of shitty, but I think some people understand more so than the people you just went and visited because it's just, I don't want to say more so. It's a different relationship. You're a different family that you're coming back to. Like, I'm, I'm back, guys. I'm back, and I brought gifts.
Yeah, yeah. I will forever be, and I will. I feel bad because I haven't kept up with them as much as I should have throughout the years. Have doing, yeah. You know how the ODA life is. It got really, really busy, and I was deploying a lot. Southcom, CENTCOM, but they were a family, and they still are. Like I love them to death, and I wish I could relive those days a lot. A lot of people, like I mentioned earlier, some of the things that warfighters talk about is memories and dreams and nightmares. Like I had a lot more fond dreams and memories of being up there. I've kind of blocked out a lot of the bad stuff for those smiling faces on the Heskins, and like the stuff we did. We had rock rolling contests to see who could roll a rock down the mountain the furthest. Just stupid stuff. But that will always be my brothers, and I want them to know that they're responsible for everything that I've accomplished. Like it wouldn't be without them. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And speaking of which, the day I got shot in the head, I was able to got shot in the head, stayed at the base of the valley for like a day and a half. And they're like, "Okay, you good? You ready to go back up?" And I was, my neck hurt, and I was like pounding headache. I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go back." And that walk back up, I remember being so out of breath, and they were hooting and hollering. at the top, waiting for me to come back up. And that's a really cool memory. It's one of my best memories.
What what was the what led up to you to taking a round? Because you took a round in your ACH, right? Your combat
Uh-huh.
helmet. How did all that come about? Was it just a normal day up until you got hit?
No, it was a more dangerous mission. It was one of the ones you didn't want to get on when the PL briefed his last seven, next seven, and you saw that Ali Abad Cemetery or Korangal Village was on the schedule, and you're like, it's going to be second squad. I know it, or first squad, or you're like, oh man. Um, and we had to go across, and it was funny. We had scouts attached to us, and we had to go across and set up a blocking position. We were supposed to intercept either a meeting. Again, I was a pretty low rank. I think at the time I was a saw gunner, maybe a 203 gunner, and so I was just kind of in my formation in the wedge, like security. But we infilled, and then we were exfilling as the sun was coming up the next morning, and I remember, you know, my team leader Brendan telling me like, I'm like this feels weird. I was like, yeah, you're right, it does feel weird. Still immature, but not really knowing the whole idea of what's going on. I'm like, yep, I don't like it either. And we had gone down the mountain, crossed it a couple villages, and gone up another mountain to set in this blocking position, so to speak. And you had to cross a river and a bridge, like a makeshift like cobblestone bridge to get to this position. So the exfil was crossing back over the bridge, and that was at the like an apex at the bottom of the valley. Like everybody could see this bridge because it was right next to a cemetery, which had a little cobblestone like Shawshank Redemption wall next to it, like a knee high wall. And so we're crossing over, and immediately like a two pronged ambush just initiates as we're exfilling, and it initiates, and we all just hightail it. We're like across the bridge, and we all get behind this wall, and Afghan cemeteries, they're not buried 6 feet deep, the bodies. And then I don't know what's written on these, but there's just jagged pieces of shale stuck in the ground for headstones. So we're catching it from two angles from my position, two angles, probably between 200 and 400 meters away. And it's at, I want to say, a 30-degree incline, just coming down, plunging fire coming down at us. So each of us is kind of listening to commands, but we're returning fire in two different directions. We're like, all right, couple rounds here, couple rounds here. And we take fire from this window across the river through that, and I'm watching these headstones fall. These headstones are just getting peppered up and just crumbling. And the first thing that happens, and one of the pictures of me holding my helmet with my face all bloody, is we take an RPG hit somewhere in the riverbed, and then a burst of automatic fire hits this wall, and it just kind of explodes on my face. So I've got like shards of rock and metal in my face, and I'm bleeding. And I was like, oh, that's not cool. And the minute I kind of look back up and get my bearing, I see a flash from a windowsill, and it was lights out. And I can only imagine my head was about this high, like chin high above the wall, kind of like looking. And and again, my friends would be better off. My comrades from then would be better off telling the story because I don't remember a whole lot. But I fell into somebody's lap straight back. Um, it was lights out, green spots. I remember seeing green spots and then blackness. Nothing. And to this day, I don't know how long I was out, and I haven't asked any of the old homies, but 30 seconds to a minute, maybe a couple minutes, I don't know. But the first thing that came back was my hearing. I could hear, but I couldn't see anything. I couldn't move, and I remember hearing the FO call me KIA over the radio, give me my battle roster number and call me KIA, and I could hear people kind of like cussing about it and freaking out, heavily returning fire and anger. I hope revenge, and and I remember like trying to get all my will to tell them no, I'm okay. I could only hear, couldn't see anything, couldn't open my eyes, and then whatever amount of time passed, I sat up, and they all just kind of gave me this like Beetlejuice stare, like, oh, oh, and I'm like looking around, and I remember like there was a couple trees and branches are falling, they're shooting at me because I'm just like sitting there in the middle of the road, like what's going on, and and yeah, a couple guys lifted me up by the armpits, and they're like, you okay? And I was like, I think so. Like, all right, you need to run that way now. So they gave me like a little escort, and I just ran down this road as they were kind of shooting back at me to a Humvee that had made it as far, because we were at the base of the valley, so there was paths to drive, and they linked me up with a Humvee, put me in it, and drove me back to the aid station that was at the base of the valley, the Korangal outpost down there. And that was, I took a picture with my squad leader, which is one of the more noted photos of me with like my face all like bloody and black, and my helmet is like frayed open, and I'm like smiling with like blood and dirt on my teeth. Um, and I didn't really nothing registered as far as like how bad it was or what it was until they sat me by the aid station, and at the time I smoked, we all smoked, and I'm asking the medic, I'm like, yo, let me get a cigarette because some things have happened. And I put it in my mouth and I light it up, and I'm just like sitting there trying to catch my breath, and I realized that I can't take a hit of my cigarette because I was still bleeding from my face, and it had soaked the whole cigarette. So I'm just sucking on this thing and nothing's happening. Um, but yeah, they at that time, that was early on in the war, so they were like, "Hey, you good?" And I was like, "I think I'm good." They're like, "Have some ibuprofen." Okay. And there was a real bed at the base of the valley, so like, go ahead and take a nap. Like, all right. They let me sleep that night. I woke up raging headache, and my neck hurt real bad. But I think I spent half a day down there, and they were like, "Oh, they made me take a test. They made me take a test where they brought me a laptop, and I had to hit the space bar for every X. I don't know if you know, for every non, yeah, some mental test. That was
Yeah.
it. I
That
woke
sure
back
is
up the
real
next day and
accurate.
went back at it.
Perfect. Return to duty.
Yeah.
Um, hmm.
Yeah. I remember my squad leader saying, welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. And I hope that I'm living that way every day.
And you still had 12 more months to go after that.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Give or take. We had quite a while to go. And I was like, well, it can't get any worse.
I guess. I mean, yeah, that's a positive way to look at it. Yeah, we won't make it too much about, yeah. So you sustained a serious TBI, and then just go right back into firefights for 12 months. No healing, no nothing, just serious combat for 12 straight months after that. Um, Probably has had an effect on you. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, I do. Now that I'm older and like I probably spent a small fortune on goodies, headache powder, and things like that. And my memory's not as good as it should be, I think, and I wish I had done more to take care of it. But I was so hyper focused on the mission and the homies, and then going soft. I forged my hearing test to get into selection because it was bad. After I got shot in the head, I went and paid a dude that worked in the aid station to like take it for me and like doctor the scores. So like
Allegedly,
that.
allegedly, you're still in. That's allegedly, allegedly. Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
yeah, I was so hyper focused that I wanted to be soft, and but now knowing what I know, when you were talking about your concussions before we got on, knowing how they affect you and stuff, and I wish I had done a little bit more. But as a young man, you're like, that didn't bother me. I'm good to go.
Absolutely, with your buddies up on the hill up there, and it's not a hill. I'm understating it. It's way the fuck up there. They need me. I gotta get back up there. Um,
Yeah, I have a dairy shake on my bed. It's calling my name.
I mean, fuck. For those listening at home, that's got to be a hot ticket when you have nothing else to latch onto.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy, man. And you said the camera crew was in, out, or no, yeah, in, out, and then came back. What periods of the 16 months are they there?
They would. I couldn't tell you how many months total they spent, but I want to say it was probably half or a little more than half. That they spent with us. The funny thing was they had taken like a 2 or 3 week hiatus when I got shot in the head, so they came back all fired up. And the picture of me sitting on the bed that's on my Instagram and me holding that helmet, that was taken by Tim Hetherington. He's like, "Whoa, we heard all about it. Like, I got to get a photo." And I was like, "All right, well, here it is." Because it was hilarious how they like dug into Connex somewhere and sent me a new helmet. and I still have the helmet. I just showed it to a family friend, and it, they're like, as I'm doing my VA stuff now, trying to get out, they're like, just carry the helmet with you wherever you go.
Yeah. Fully documented and still not service connected. I'm sure that it's not service connected. So, but kind of got to process all that. Because, like I said, man, I have nothing to base to reference any of what you're talking about. And I don't
Uh-huh.
usually on the show get this far into the weeds, but we do have, as I said, if you're listening, and once we finish this up for the first time you're hearing this, go watch the documentary. It's fucking intense. The way they put it together and all of your guys, because you're kids, right? And even looking back, your platoon sergeant is younger than you are now, right? So
Mhm.
you're all young guys fucking living together and they're living with you and it's close quarters and you're figuring shit out. Like I wrote down here infantry tactics, right? You guys are having to make this shit up too because most of you to this point had a little bit of training and then OSUT, right? Which is at Benning, which is completely flat. They don't train you in the fucking mountains. So to what level are you guys even making up your infantry tactics on the fly every day?
Yeah, I mean, and that was the thing. That was one of my strengths going into SF, and then even going into Ranger School and things like that. Like, I was really good at applying old 7-8 infantry tactics to all manner of situations because you had to react to contact or break contact up mountains, up draws, around places. You're putting in security positions where like there were cliffs and you were falling down. Whether it's to get back into the OP, we had set up a series of 4 foot by 4 foot the tiny Hescos, and we had filled those so that we could provide cover and bound each other in because we would get shot at on that straightaway in. So we were making it up on the fly, but everything was, and I hate this, you're gonna love this, was met TC. Like we knew we're like, okay, bad spot, good spot. Like, how are we gonna solve X, Y, and Z problem? And we did. We solved problems, whether it was having we had a Mark 19 later on up in a tower that we'd built, and we'd have it throw out, rounds to cover us from certain areas as we were making movement, or throw fake rounds in certain areas. So so they kind of we kind of threw them off, and it was awesome. Like it really helped me out later on in my career, being like, well, you could do it this way, but I have seen it done this way and it's worked. I can say where, but it's effective.
We'll get into that later. So obviously 12 months, the 12-month mark, which is at the time was kind of standard, passes. And then you're like, we're fucking still here. And then 13 months passes and 14 months. What are they telling you at this point? And what are you guys thinking?
They're telling us they're doing like the 3 month, like I think it was 3 month extensions at the time. So they were like, hey, I think it was that was the standard, was 3 months. They were like, hey, 3 months, another 3 months, another 3 months, and we're like, okay. Um, and they were like, hey, the word on the street is like you're only getting extended once for 3 months, and we're like, okay. And we didn't believe them. We're like, yeah, this guy. And then it ended up being that way. Like I say 16 months, but I want to say it was 15 at the OP, and then like we spent like weeks here and there, like getting out of country. But we got a guaranteed redeployment date because even in the documentary, one of the guys is like giving the countdown from like an operative warning order. He's like 3 months and counting. He's a good friend of mine, and we were like, okay, we're gonna believe you this one time, Al, and we did. We're like, well, if they extend us, they extend us. But again, we hadn't heard of people going longer all that much. We'd heard of 18-monthers, but we were like, there's no way they can do this to us. Like, this is the worst place ever. They have to let us out. And it's funny because I was one of the last students to leave the OP. So on the documentary, there's a one last shot at the very end of the sun, and it's me walking away, and I just kind of give a peace sign in the sun from behind. So you can only see like my back, my butt, and I'm just doing this, giving goodbye, I'm walking away. I was one of the last dudes to leave, and I remember being a little bit sad that day. But 15 months is 15 months, or
Yeah,
16
that's a
months.
long time, man. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And then nobody replaces you, right?
No, we did get a replacement. We got replaced by a 1st Infantry Division. And I think that's the guy with the I Heart New York boxers gun. They were with them. And I remember them coming up, and they had, this was during the time when BCTs were coming along, the Brigade Combat Teams, and they, I'm never gonna dog on any one dude or any unit, but they kept saying something that caught my attention. I'll never forget. They're like, "Well, we're not light. We just got our tracks taken away." So I'm assuming they were like striker people. So they would say that a lot, and I was like, "Well, that doesn't make any difference because you couldn't drive a striker up here anyway." But but they would say that, and I remember them being like, "Yo, this place sucks." And we're like, "Yeah, yeah, you're not kidding. It really does suck." And they took to it pretty well. I mean, we heard they did all right. They pretty much left it after that. I think it was they were the last crew to be there. But we built it up. We gave them everything we got. And I'll tell you what, a funny story is people ask me, they're like, "Hey, how do you know when it was too long, when you guys were like in the shit?" And I say, "Well, I'm not gonna say any names, but I was sitting there eating, and a few people have heard this story. I was sitting there eating an MRE right outside my hooch, and I was just kind of sitting there watching, and we had a specific way of burning human feces. You cut a water bottle in half, and then you got the fuel, and you slowly kind of pour it in, and then you mixed it with a picket so it stay lit. And the replacements were coming in, and I'm watching my buddy give the brief on how to burn the toilet bowl, and he's talking to me. He's like, "Yeah, this and that," and I'm eating. I'll never forget it, brother. I'm eating the number 23 MRE, the chicken with cavatelli. And I know exactly what's in it. And I'm sitting there watching him, and he's giving us brief, and he puts the picket in the edge of the 55-gallon drum, which is cut like into a third or a quarter. And he turns around to fill up the gas. And as he's talking and watching his picket eating, I see his picket begin to slowly move on the fulcrum of the side of the bucket. And right as he turns around, he's talking. He's like, "So anyway, and then you get the fuel and you go over here, make sure you keep it lit." That picket kind of hits the ground and flies out, and it shoots a flaming piece of that flaming human turd right at his face. And it hits him, and he doesn't skip a beat. He just wipes it off and keeps talking, mixing it. It didn't even phase it. He didn't even stop his sentence.
They
And I'm
didn't
like,
they didn't get that in the
oh.
documentary.
There's a whole lot of things in the documentary that are like that weren't in it that just are some of my core memories. But that one was hilarious because I'm sitting in the plume of smoke from the barrel eating, and I'm thinking like, "Yeah, this is it."
At least you're on your way
Yeah,
out and you're headed home, and probably
yeah.
never have to go back there again. Little did you know you're going to go close, but not there. Or did you ever get back in that region?
I did once for a very short period of time. I was not directly in that region, but I was close to it, and like I remember thinking there, like it has the same smell, it has the same look. It is what it is. But I told this to somebody else. That place was such an obscure spot in Afghanistan that they spoke their own dialect of Pashtun. They spoke Korangali. So a lot of our interpreters and the army guys, the Afghan National Army guys that were with us, couldn't understand the villagers. And at one point, I don't remember who was talking to the leadership in the village or in one of the villages, but they asked early on that they said they pointed to the American flag patch, and it's like asking about the Russians and if the Russians got a new patch or are we the Russians? And we're like, no, it was 20 some odd years ago. And they're like, oh, well, what's going on? Like, what are you guys doing here? They had no knowledge of 9/11, no idea why we were there. We're way out here. It was just a different world,
Yeah,
completely different.
you said it. We talked about it earlier. You are not part of the rest of the world when you guys were out there. And how was that transitioning back? Because now everybody's everybody's leaving, and now you go down to the big base at Kandahar, and that's got to be a shock to the system as a unit to roll into there. How did you guys deal with that?
I mean, we were pretty. I don't know if the word is egregious. We were disgruntled people. you probably heard of the confidence that dudes get, war fighters get after a good trip. Um, I've heard females talk about it, like, oh, especially couples that have linked up. Like, I met him right after the deployment. He was just so confident and so uh outgoing and energetic, like, because you just survived something. We were on top of the world, but there was like a 3 or 4 day period. I think it was Bagram that we were at. I've been to both, so I get them mixed up, but we were at Bagram, and they had like a Chili's at Bagram and like a Smoothie King and like all these different things. We were like, what is going on? Um, there was like USO tours going on. I met you know, movie stars and stuff, and we were like, what is happening? Gyms. We just couldn't believe that was somebody else's combat deployment. As a matter of fact, I was at the Pizza Hut or whatever pizza place was at Bagram, and they took some indirect, and you could barely hear it in the distance. It was like a boom, and the sirens went off, and people were hitting the floor with their meat lovers. And me and a couple of the homies were like looking at them, like, "What are you guys doing?" You know. So it was a completely different world. We had no idea that people were living like that and consider it combat deployments. And I'll tell you another story. Again, I smoke, so we had gotten off the bird there, and on the main strip there, Disney Avenue, they had these like smoking sections with like Folgers cans and concrete and these poles. They were roped off, and I didn't really realize what they were. So I'm just standing like kind of outside one, just hitting heater, and this dude like races over to me across the street, and he like gives me a knife hand, like hard, but he didn't say anything for like 10 or 15 seconds. He just held it there. So I was like, hey, how you doing? Kyle. And he like pulled it back. He's like, you are outside of the designated smoking area. And I was like, what? We're in Afghanistan, man. I was like, you kidding me? I'm smoking a disgusting Afghan cigarette, like a Pine Light or a Pleasure Premium or whatever. And he's like, you need to be in the smoking area. And he's like giving me all this guff. And I was like, okay. And then we weren't allowed to drive. The NCOs were driving some of the cars around. And they were like, yeah, you get speeding tickets on the main road in Afghanistan in that fob. What? No way. You know, this is a crazy world. We didn't expect anything like it. You know?
I I can't imagine, and I don't have any point of reference. So it does. I mean, you're just echoing the same sentiment that other people have told me. It's like that's ridiculous. But when you give the regular army nothing to do, for the most part, the vast majority nothing to do. They can argue all they want, but nothing to do but support. They're going to make up shit to uh, impose their will on each other. That's what they do in garrison, in training, in every environment throughout the world. Here's a bad situation. Let's fucking make it worse. And I'm sure that that's what they did. So, but I never went, so I can't offer too much of an opinion on that. So what you?
Yeah, I mean,
So
Scarlett
you guys
Johansson
are?
was there doing the.
Who's that?
Me and my buddy rolled up on a tent with like movie stars, and we like bumped into Scarlett Johansson signing autographs, I think, and we are like, hey, yeah,
Well, yeah, you're not going to run into that at home either. So I guess that's one of the places that'll happen. What?
the thing is, man, is that like I had enough. I told you about the story with the SF guys. So when I went on leave, Christmas leave, I probably should have said this. I was in Jalalabad, I think, or Sadabad. I don't know. I was in one of the littler fobs that is like a hub to go to the Bagram or Kandahar to fly out, and I'm sitting in this PAX terminal by myself, and an SF guy comes in and he sits down. They're like old church pews, and he sits down across from me. He's got BDUs. He's dusty. He's got beard. I'm not gonna say his name, but he has an accent. He's not. He's European, and he ended up becoming a very good friend of mine later. But these girls come in, and they move some of the pews aside, and they have old army PTs on, and they put on some music, and they start like doing a choreographed dance. So I'm staring at them, just disgusting. I'm dirty. I'm still in the ACUs that I had from like Restrepo. They're like just terribly smelly, and I'm like looking at them. I look over, and the SF guy's looking at him too, and his BDUs and his like big old Gandalf beard, and I'm staring. and they can tell that we're judging them. So they pause the music and they go, you know, this is for American Idol night on the fob. You can get something going like this at your fob if you wanted to. And the SF guy's like, are they serious? That's what he said to me. I'm like, I guess, you know, and so fast forward, that guy ended up being in my company. He ended up being a Q course cadre that recognized me in the line after you get selected and you're in your line, like your Spanish line. And he like walked by and he looked at me. And I was like, so he like gave me the runaround and I ended up getting to his company in 7th group later. really,
Fucking
really strange
wild.
story.
That shit happens. So, man, you see people in the course, then you see them at your company, and now you see them in civilian life. You're like, bro, I know you. Oh, fucking weird. And especially with social media now, I'm running into everybody that I lightly knew, and now it's a weird thing. Um, what year are you guys finally leaving? Because now you spent over a year up at Restrepo, and now you're down, getting ready to get on a bird, fly back to America. What year is it now? Month and year.
Oh, man.
So you flying right back to Italy?
Yep. Flying back to Italy, where again, it's Europe and the drinking age for us at the time stationed there is still 18. So, yep.
Just let
Lots of
loose,
things are
huh?
legal there that are not legal in America. And we are, a platoon of dudes that have just sustained serious war for 15 months and we acted like it.
Did
It's the
they
best time of
give
my life and
you
the worst time of my life.
did they give you any, because where you guys were not like completely non-standard from everybody else's deployment, right? Was there any special consideration given to you guys at all in integrating you back into society, or did they just fucking say, all right, bye, after 100% accountability?
Yeah, pretty much. They were like, they didn't have enough housing because they were doing some renovations or something. So they put a bunch of us up in hotels, like on the Italian economy, which in my mind to this day was probably a bad idea. But they for the first couple months they did. They were like, hey, there was no integration. They were just like, hey, we'll give you, just take it easy, just show up, for formation here and then release. It was like a lot of zonk, a lot of like, hey, go do you. And I remember signing the leave form, like the post deployment leave form, and being so drunk that I was like shaking, and my signature was just like all ratty and stupid, and I was like, man, we were all just a mess. And even when after leave, you went stateside leave, you had to come back, you had your formation. They talked about training and that it would pick up, but it was probably like 2 or 3 months where we just didn't have a whole lot to do. They didn't have places to put us. You can't really train on Italy. We did most of our training in Germany. So because of the SOFA agreement, you can't do like a lot of training in Italy. You can just do like hip pocket stuff, or you at that time. And we drank, brother. We drank and we took 4-day passes and leave like it was going on south. And I tell people like there are people that go to Italy and they're like, oh man, Italy's not a great duty station or this and that. And I'm like, man, I had a blast in Italy. I found myself in Munich for Oktoberfest, in Dublin on St. Patty's Day, in Paris on the Eiffel Tower. Like I went everywhere. I bought Eurail passes and Ryanair or Sky Europe flights everywhere, and I had a blast. Going SF was really hard because I love that duty station so much. Um, Now, my life would look very different. I probably have a liver problem at this point, but I met my wife in Italy, so and that was the biggest blessing I've ever had. She was studying abroad in Rome, and I was doing the airborne infantry thing and going on a pub crawl in Florence and bumped into her
That's pretty
in
cool,
Italy.
man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You got so it sounds like you like it, but you had said earlier, always in the back of your mind is going back
Always.
to the Q course, right? How how close to the end when you left Afghanistan to when does it start like becoming, oh, this is a possibility again? When does that start creeping back in your mind? Because when you're living in the fucking sticks, you've got to been like, oh, that's far away. When does it start
Yeah.
becoming a real thing again?
So I had anybody that was Ranger tabbed because I considered them kind of linked at the time. You've been a Ranger school, SF, so on and so forth. So anybody, it was mostly new lieutenants. We would be on missions at Restrepo or out in the valley, and I'd take them aside and be like, hey, think I could pass Ranger school, like doing this stuff. And they always gave me the same answer. They're like, yeah, like this, are you kidding me? They're like, this, seriously? You're asking about Ranger school right now. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that. Yeah. So we got back and I re-enlisted at Restrepo, signed the paperwork. And my only concession was Ranger school because I was like, man, I had let SF kind of go. And I was like, maybe if I go be a Ranger first, that'll help me out, be more mature. I still didn't believe in myself. And it wasn't my wife. I was dating my now wife. And I had an old Special Forces pamphlet from like the 90s that I got with my dad. And it was like one of those real thick ones that like folds into itself and it unfolds. It had a guy eating a snake or like peeling a snake. And I also had a Ranger one and had like the dudes on the Zode with like the painted faces, like paddling. And with one of them, I had a unit crest pin, like stuck to one of them. And my wife found it in a drawer in Italy at my apartment in Italy. And she asked me about it. My now wife, she was like, "What is this?" And I explained it. I was like, "It's a pipe dream that I had. I've always wanted to do it." And she pretty much was like, "Well, man up and do it." So I got to training, and she would go on runs with me and stuff in Italy, and I got to training, and but it was like a Rocky 3 moment. Like my training was not good, but I had just done 15 months of the mountains, you know. So I got to selection. I re-enlisted for Ranger School and then found out I couldn't go. Ranger School was a hard thing to get in Italy because of the plane tickets and stuff. Like you were special if you got to go. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to selection. And again, the universe taking care of me, right? So my wife had probably dogged on me, and within the week, I see this random guy in black on blacks like shuffling around Caserma, Italy in Italy. And I'm like, who is that? I asked somebody like, oh, that's Sergeant First Class so and so. He's an SF recruiter. Cool. So I went and stopped him, and very nonchalantly, he wasn't a non-tab dude. You know, I've heard some of the other episodes. He was a tab dude. He acted like it. He was like, "What's up? What do you want?" I was like, "Thinking about trying SF. I tried once, and I'd like to do it again." He's like, "All right." He's like, "Meet me at the chapel tomorrow or the theater." And I was like, "Okay." There's like 5 of us in the theater, and he like got on the stage, showed a video. He's like, "You guys probably won't make it. One of you might. I don't know." And he's like, "Take a P, tomorrow's a PT test." I'm like, "All right." So I did it, and I guess I did all right. And I went with the other guys, a couple of the other guys. I think 3 of us went, and I went to the class right after the 2 weeks in hell class. In fact, a lot of people don't know this, and he probably wouldn't want me to say it, so I won't say his name. But the dude that had in 2 weeks in hell, the dude that has to pick up his vomit and put it in his pocket, his weakness, that's a Restrepo guy.
Really?
That's the dude that was at. Yep, that's the dude that was at Restrepo. 2 weeks in hell was the class right before mine. So there was a couple dudes from Restrepo in that one, and then me and a couple other dudes went to mine, the very next class. And
That was
I was the
January
only
of
one
2000,
that made
January 2008 or January 2009?
9.
January 2009, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep, that was it. And I went and I walked through that selection class, brother, and it was big. The first one I went to was smaller; it had like less than 300 people. And then the second one I went to had like 500. So I was like, whoa, they must be really like trying to get people going. And I remember because my roster number was like 450 something, and
Oh,
but it yeah, it was huge, and it dwindled down fast. There was like nobody there at the end. I think in the 90s were selected in the like overall left, and 96 people or something, and out of like the 500 or something, it was tons of people. And again, selection is mostly luck, but there was the first time I went to selection, I was like, I gotta perform, I gotta be the best. I went straight to instinct on that selection class. Like I acted the way I wouldn't act at Restrepo during team week. I'm like, hey, I was led when I was in charge, followed. I was like, you can do that way. I'll carry this, whatever. I've been carried double and triple basic loads. So I was like, yeah, dude, put the water jug on my back. Who cares? Like, I didn't care, send it. Nothing bothered me. Nothing. It was funny because at the time they were really like doing the cut and hard dudes, and they were doing the runs where they were like in a gator and you had to like stay in front of it. And I'll never forget. I ended up meeting this guy later. He was in 7th group guy. Came back to 7th group. He was at selection tech, but he was driving a gator and like pouring out cold Gatorade in front of us as we're like carrying the apparatus or whatever. And he's like, just all you got to do to have to drink this is just, just quit. And he's like doing all this stuff and like eating food. And I remember thinking like, screw you, dude. Like you have no idea. Like, this doesn't bother me the slightest. You ever eaten MREs for 15 months, homie? Like, you can't bother me at all. Get out of here with that, you know?
Some of those cadre at that time probably had. Yeah, some of those cadre might have that knew what it was like to suffer.
But I remember
But
thinking, like, some people thought that was terrible. And I was like, this is
yeah,
not bad.
yeah, they're
Comparatively. You know?
but it's crazy then. They're enticing people to quit, and now they're having problems getting people to go. Like, oh fuck, just come to selection. It'll be fun. Oh shit. Um, it it will be fun, kids. Sign up. Send me an email. I'll convince you to go. So, all right. So 2 weeks in hell. You go to the next class. So that's February of 2009.
Yeah.
They hand you your letter. Fucking. Did you know, like, gate to gate, front to back? Did you know you were going to get selected being there? Because I did.
You know, I thought you would ask this question, and I was like, how do I answer something like this? Because yes and no. Like, I went through the whole thing being like, day by day, just like I did at Restrepo. Like, let's see here. I'm going to do these 80 push-ups. And the dude that graded me ended up being in 7th group. I ended up being on a team with him. And I brought it up to him several times. He never said a word. I'm just doing push-ups. And I remember walking in the team room the first day and being like, you graded my push-ups. And he looked at me from behind the desk and was like, I was fair. Like, sure, cool, man. But I went gate to gate, day to day, and I was like, I'm still in it. I'm still in it. And I remember thinking, they did the mind games, the numbers, and at the time it was a chalkboard. And I was like, can't bother me, dude. Like, I had a very strong will and mind. And I was like, even if you say no, fine. But I was pretty confident. I was like, I'm crushing you. There's no way. I might not be the best because the X-rays were still in phenomenal shape. I mean, they were just running road marches for days. I was like, holy crap. But I was like, I have just walked every day for 15 months at a 40-degree incline. Like, I got this. So I had a small sense of pride. Like, the whole time I was like, dude, no way. I got this. Just stand by. I will be there, whether it was the trek, whether it was anything. I was like, I got this. And I really shined at team week because, team week is when you saw a lot of dudes' true colors. You remember, and there was a captain there that was like whimpering and whining, carrying the wooden crates, the rope handles. He was like whining about it. And I remember saying something under my breath, like, dude, if it's not for you, just quit, man. And they stopped the patrol, and one of the cadre ended up being in the Senate group. One of the cadre was like, hey, stop what you're doing. I was like, oh, I'm not a team player. He's going to get in my face. He's like, I want you to turn around and I want you to tell him what you just said. So I turned around, and in his face, I was like, hey, dude, like, if this isn't for you, like, then save us all some trouble and just quit. And then he started crying. And the cadre was like, tell him again, but louder. I was like, you need to just quit. He's like, very good. Pick up your apparatus and continue. I was like, oh, so this is the kind of course we're in. Yeah, he ended up quitting. He's a captain from the 101st. I don't remember the name, but thinking to myself, like, all right, I have not me, the NCOs, the 173rd, and the experience of being at combat, building up your Restrepo with the best men I could ever hope to be around. That molded me, made me into that person. And my mind was stronger than iron, dude. I was like, you're not gonna phase me. I'm gonna push this stupid Jeep with 3 wheels. I'm gonna carry this stupid thing for as long as you want me to. And you're on that team one time. Sometimes it comes in like wicked late. You're like, damn, man. you know. But I'm like, whatever, dude. It is what it is. But again, some luck, brother. Like, I almost got road killed. I tell this story a lot. I see like the flashlight and like, hey, what's your number? It's me. And I like look down and there's like a slight body-sized muddy depression. And I know you got the vest on, the reflective vest in your ruck. And I just looked at that hole and like fell backwards in it and like turtled into this hole. And he just come running by me into the woods.
Oh,
Completely missed
God.
me. And I was like, so when I heard you talk about luck, I'm like, yo.
Well, you've had, it all comes out. You made it. The people that are going to graduate are going to graduate, and the people that aren't
Yeah.
aren't. That's a really shitty simplification of the whole process, but different experiences, but similar layout. We both went to selection. and we didn't make it. I got med, you got 21 non-select, and then we came back and fucking did it. So the people that are, it's like a reverse engineering thing. The people in group, they made it. You know, they figured out a way to get there. You can still fail and
Yeah.
still figure out how to get there. You just gotta fucking come up with a plan of attack. And um, yeah, I can yeah, 2 times at selection. I can guarantee you, fucking after hearing and seeing in the documentary what you guys went through on that specific, it's like I have no idea. I don't experience none of it, right? But like selection's not gonna fucking phase you. Like fuck, you know. This is way, but like there's nobody shooting at us, right? Like fuck, you
100%.
know, all we gotta do is move this shit over there. That's fine. Fuck, yo, let's go, man. So
Yeah.
it's not gonna phase you. And obviously, you, as I wrote down here, you grew up. You shredded that immaturity, um, and now, all right, let's get down to business. Give me my selection paper so I can go back to 173rd, plop that motherfucker down on first sergeant's desk, say, I'm out of here, and let's get to work, right?
Yeah. Got a terrible NCOER leaving. I was an E5. I was a new E5. I like the old 3-2 block. Like I was a traitor and this and that. And it was like, whatever. I don't blame them. It was a whole new command. It was a whole new platoon. They were like, oh, where's he going? Like, whatever. A lot of dudes had just failed. But, I will say I got to my ODA and phenomenal group of guys. Again, one of my best friends, great mentors. And you got a wish list of schools when you got to your ODA at seventh group at that ODA. And it was like 3 or 5 schools you could, like to put your top 3 or whatever. And he was at the time the Fox or senior Bravo, and he leans over into my ear and he said, "That better say Ranger School 5 times." I was like, okay. So I went to Ranger School 5 times. And it'll be the first school I went to in this. And again, the same thing as selection. I was like,
Did you? Okay, people ask me this, right? It's a very popular question. Do you need Ranger School to be a Green Beret? Fuck no. Do some Green Berets need Ranger School? Yep, 100%. Fucking go. Come back when you got a tab. Did you,
yeah,
now looking back, knowing everything you know now and all the shit you went through, did you need to go to Ranger School when you graduate? You're like, I'm glad I got the tab, but did you actually need that?
no, not from the sense that one would think you need it. What it did help me was I had this huge amount of foreign students in my Ranger School class, so it helped me with partner force stuff. I had a Jordanian or Saudi officer that refused to carry the gun or ammo because it was enlisted man's work. So what I always tell dudes is like, no, you don't need it, especially if you're SUT or your IUW. I didn't go through IUW, and I just did. If your stuff where you're like learning, yeah, I've heard about IUW. I had friends that were instructors there, but all that it does is it teaches you to lead the most unmotivated people ever, because they call Ranger School the premier leadership school. Why? Because there are times when you're getting 45 minutes of sleep, you're getting your MRE at like 2 a.m. and then 4 a.m. You like eat it right before you go to bed, and then right when you wake up, and then you don't eat it again until the following 2 a.m. So I had a ton of young kids, a ton of brand new lieutenants, and a ton of foreign students. So getting these dudes to do what you want them to do, that's why it's the premier leadership school, which translated really well to partner force people. Like I was like, yo, those conscripts in like third world countries, I was like, ugh, those dudes were just terrible. So like, not all of them, but like getting them to do something that they didn't want to do. But again, as far as the suck factor goes, after Restrepo and after the Q course, I was like, no. Especially mountains. Everybody dogs on mountains. I was like, you guys think these are mountains? Like, come on, man. This is easy day, dude. Easy day. I'll carry the gun. Give me everything.
You know, um, what year is, when did you, what Ranger class were you in?
I was the January class of 11.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the documentary has come out already, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a few months out now.
Yeah.
So, and your ODA knows about it, and then
Yeah.
they go home, they watch it, and they come into work and they send you off to fucking Ranger School.
Yeah. Well, the whole world knew about it at that time, so they were showing that documentary. When I
Were
came in
you
the army,
famous at Ranger School? Like, did people know you?
oh yeah, Oh yeah, people knew me for like 6 years, and they knew everybody in the platoon that had a large speaking role in the documentary, because a lot of people don't know this. I found this out at the Atlanta airport, at our Hartsfield airport. They were showing it at 30th AG on a loop when you were getting your gear. Like I saw when I went through, it was like Band of Brothers or Gladiator. Those are like the two things they showed on a loop when you were like waiting to get your stuff from your duffel bag. They showed Restrepo on a loop. So there were privates for freaking years that knew who we were. And I went through later on with a beard, an Afghanistan trip from group with like long, like Clay Matthews hair and like a gross beard. And they were like, wow, like all these privates were like, it's him. I was like, oh, people at bars would recognize me, bouncers, there's all kinds of people. So the Ranger School crew knew immediately. Like there was a ton of people that were like, oh, that's you. Oh my gosh. No way. The real, the real, the real hit came when, before you do any Ranger School patrol, like you get a block of instruction, they give a vignette on like a combat scenario on why X, Y, and Z tactic is important. They give a real world vignette. And the dude, the RI giving the vignette, was giving a vignette of something that happened at Restrepo. So, like, he's giving the vignette. He's like, 2007, Korangal Valley, Afghanistan. And he's giving this vignette, and there's a ton of the Ranger students that know who I am. And I'm way in the back on these bleachers, and they're all like, and he can see that it's me. And he's like looking up at me as he's giving this vignette about 3/4 of the way through. And he's like, and then he just stops his vignette. He's like, all right, out to the planning tables. Because he knew he was giving a vignette about something I had done. And I thought it was hilarious. Still a defining moment in my life. It was like, I was like, yeah, that's fun.
And he goes, "Oh, I don't want to fuck this up. Shit, I got
Yeah.
to. It's a tough crowd, as they say out here for this fucking training block. Everybody hit the fucking ropes." All right, man. So that was probably you said you're the most well known at that point, and now starts your descent into going back to being unknown, right? Because I remember, because so this is 2010. You're at group. I got to, I'm going through the course. Everybody starts having fake names on Facebook at a certain point, and then they're limiting access, and you're looking in who can see my profile, and you're deleting things. And so social media is starting to get big once you're getting into group and things like that. So you're, how much were you fighting against how well known you were going into a classified role?
Big time. I started lying. People would be like, you look like that guy. And I was like, I get that all the time, man. Like, no, I did it a lot because, that was the time when the identity management briefs were getting really big, right? This is how you lock down your Facebook. This is how you should not do this. Location services. Like, because when I got to a team, phones didn't really have internet. It was still flip phones. Like, I got to a team with like the gold razor and I was like, sick, dude. I had the coolest phone ever. So it wasn't a thing, but as it went on, it became like, hey, you really need to like not do this stuff. Well, as we've progressed in soft, it's now advised to have a social media, albeit a bland one, because now you look weird if you don't have one. Like you're the only dude walking around this town that has no digital signature at all. Like, so it's encouraged to have one. It's just they monitor it really well. But yeah, back then you were like, the fear factor was out. You were getting pamphlets, monthly on identity management and, contact with family members, having family members as friends, having pictures, having locations. So you just were like, you know what? I'm just going to shut all this down and call it a day, and it was easier that way.
Yeah,
So that's what I did.
that's just the times. Yeah. Um, got to be easier. And now everything's changed. There's a fucking, I got it around here somewhere. There's a fucking regulation for social media within SOCOM. And that's why I told you the things I did before we started and things like that. But I want to go back because now it jumped back into my head. Did you have any advanced viewings of the documentary before it came out, or did you see it for the first time just like everybody else?
No, I did. So Sebastian Younger flew a bunch of us out to New York or Manhattan, yeah, for a premiere. And it was like his first showing. He wanted his first showing to be of the homies or for the homies and the homies' spouses and families and whatnot. So these, I don't have a lot of photos from my time in SF. I heard you talking about that with another guy. I regret that so much. I have so many photos from that like 4-day trip to New York. I was so fired up. I brought my now wife, and they brought us to like a really nice like independent theater and played it, and like, you know, dudes got emotional. Wives were like, "Oh my god, like I had no idea. You didn't tell me." A lot of the staff that helped put it together. There was a woman there that was like, I write down or I type every word you guys say throughout the documentary, and she had memorized the number of times we all cussed. She's like, you said the F word like 2,143 times. Okay, you know, but
44.
yeah, they paid for us to have a whole 4 days, and I was in the Q course. I was really early on in the Q course, and they paid for us to go to New York and see it. So we saw it, and we were like, "Hey, great job!" Like I said, they were homies. We loved them. And we're like, he did a really good job. That's the difference between Restrepo and all the other things you see. Is he made it about us. He made it about the experience, what we were going through, and it's widely known that Sebastian Younger, does not hold the political views of a lot of soldiers. He's pretty moderate. He's in the middle. He's a level headed dude. But you couldn't tell. He didn't. You couldn't tell that how he thought about the war. You couldn't tell what he thought about what we were doing. It was all about us, and we were really happy with the outcome of that. And then he owned a bar at the time, so he paid for us to drink for free, which I guess hurt his pocketbook pretty well. But the documentary. Here's the sucky part: is the documentary took off. A lot of my homies were either getting out of the army, or still in the infantry, or PCSing somewhere. I was in the Q course, so I was in SEER school when they all got to go to LA for an advanced showing, and they all got put up in like the Beverly Hills Hilton, and it was like up for an Oscar. So like my friends were hanging out with Tom Hanks at the Oscars. I was in SEER school.
I wouldn't I wouldn't worry about it, man.
Yeah,
I'm sure I feel confident like that in some circles still, like because there's people because you got to agree you're a Green Beret, and everybody fucking remembers that documentary. I think you'll be just fine going forward, and you'll do a lot cooler shit moving forward than you would have done back then because you know you're an adult now, and it's pretty cool to do some cool shit as an adult. And because when you're a kid, you're always your head's spinning, and at that time your head was still spinning. In the interim, you've had a long time to calm down, and the stuff
yeah.
you're probably going to get into going forward is going to be a lot cooler. So I wouldn't worry about it, but I'm sure, yeah, you think about it. It's easy to say for
No,
me, but
man, and like they had another showing where they were like they advertised it on Fort Bragg. I was in Seven Group One. Seven Group was still on Fort Bragg. So I don't know if you know, over by Bubba's. There's yeah, Bubba's. Over where that Defy Jump Park is at Bragg, that used to be a movie theater. So that's where it was first shown. Where that Defy Jump Park is behind Bubba's. There's like a Dairy Queen over there and stuff. That used to be a movie theater. So they had an advanced showing, and they invited all the soldiers. So it was me and two other dudes from Restrepo, the first sergeant Lamonta Caldwell, and then one of the squad leaders went, and we all saw it. And the people in the theater knew that we were there. So like at the end, the lights came on, they all clapped, and they knew. But it's funny because I was I was at an Archangel jumping in Arizona, and we had gone to Phoenix or something, ASU or somewhere to have drinks. And some bar owner there was like, "You're the guy from Restrepo." So he bought all the drinks, and then I had gone to Scottsdale, Arizona for something, and I was in a pool at the W just hanging out, and some fire department was there, and they had all seen it, and they all like came over to me, and they're like, "Oh," so that was happening quite a bit. And like I said, the IDM thing was big, so I was like, "Oh yeah," or I'd get the like, "I know you," and I'm like, "Oh, where'd you go to high school?" It's since faded now, which is cool. It's since faded to where now people don't even know. I was just running the pre-scuba class of cadets for the summer, and my NCOST like turned around and he goes, "Have any of you seen Restrepo? These are 18, 19-year-old cadets in college," and they were like, "No." They're like, none of you guys. Korangal? They're like, "No." And I'm just laughing to myself, like, it's beyond them now, but
Back to
it is what it is.
anonymity. It is. That's how time goes. Everything passes by, man. You're the old guy now. You're the old guy in the hallway. Uh, Nothing wrong with that.
Your turn.
I think about me, like I was telling my wife last night. It's like, yeah, I'd be the very old guy at 38 in the hallway because the guys are making rank so early now, or getting into SF so early now. Like there's, I'd be E8 or E9 if I'd have kept my head on straight, which I couldn't. Um, yeah,
You were talking about it on a previous episode. I was listening to it. Like the amount, this time goes by so fast, and you don't think it. I remember being at Bragg in my first 38, doing like a run around Bragg with the captain. And I was like, I'm gonna beat him, and I was like, winning. He was winning. And I was like, and the warrant at that time's in the back, and I'm like dogging on him. Like, come on, old man. I get dogged on. Like I am fighting to stay middle of the pack on runs and stuff. Like, dude, and like we get a new ranger kid, and he's like, hey, we're doing the 5 miler, and he's like, chief, you want to run with me? I'm like, yeah, sure, man. What's your time trying to beat? He's like 28, 30, 29. I'm like, no, not gonna
good
do
luck.
that.
Good luck with that, Skip.
Yeah, see you later, brother. you
Yeah,
know but
yeah.
yeah, it goes
Those
by
days are
so
over.
fast, man, and blink. And you can't get me to buy another case of beer for trying something new, because it's Groundhog's Day now. Yeah, I, there's nothing else to do anymore.
All right, we went through.
Tired and you're old. Now they just want you for your advice. Hey, I used to do it.
It's all right, man. We went through all of everybody else's reactions. What was your reaction to seeing the documentary for the first time and actually it all put together? What were you feeling and what were you thinking?
Um, I was really sad when the first time I saw it. Um, it hit me hard in that theater in New York. I was like, something hit me where I was like, I will never experience that again. That's when it hit me that it was special. I was like, man. And I'm looking around at wives crying, and like, and we were hugging it out. It was really, really special. I owe everything to those dudes, and I thought he did a great job. I was like, damn, damn. And I hope that I've lived up to what they thought was like a good thing, going SF and stuff. And that's been one of my biggest problems is, you know, I've been chasing something that equals that feeling for the last 20 years. And soft, it's really hard to replicate, man. Even in soft, it's like super hard to replicate that with those dudes and those conditions and like everything we went through. All the Purple Hearts that everybody got, and all of the awards and the firefights and everything that happened. And I'm always chasing that high, or that feeling, brotherhood and excitement. And my wife told me some years ago I was chasing another Afghan trip, really trying to get on it. She's like, maybe you should just like let the universe take you where it's supposed to go, because at some point it's not going to turn out well. But yeah, I knew it was special, man. OP Restrepo was a special time. It made a lot of people. It defined my life. You know, it did. So I was just a young kid. I got off the airplane from Fort Bragg after failing the first time. Been a Wisconsin kid my whole life, and I'm wearing like a Brewers shirt and some skateboarding shoes, and I'm like standing there with a green duffel bag at Venice Airport. Like, what am I supposed to do now? To the man you see before you. It really grew me up and matured me. I'm thankful.
Um, I'm really happy for you, man. I'm really happy for you. And how often does your mind go back there? Is it daily, weekly?
Daily. There's not a day. If it's not the location, it's the people. It's the people that like I go back to. I still take lessons from dudes, because every day was a lesson. Every day you're getting shot at. Every day you're learning something new. You're dealing with something, a new emotion, anything. I dropped my toothbrush down the mountain one time, and it took them like 3 weeks to get me a new one. So I was brushing my teeth with the gray one that came in a cleaning kit. It had like carbon and COP on it. So I had like gritty teeth for like 2 or 3 weeks. you know and I go back to things like that. And the thing is, man, is that nothing in this life is ever as bad as you think it is. To this day, like, I always see these like quotes about being an alpha and like taking a stand. if somebody messes up my order at a restaurant, I don't care. Like, it's not that big a deal, dude. If I order steak and you bring me chicken, I'm gonna eat the chicken. Like, I don't care. It's not worth getting my blood pressure held up over anything like that. Nothing is ever as worse as you think, as bad as you think it is. It could always be worse. And I go back to that. It's allowed me to live my life really, really, really steady. You know, I keep a level head about things because I'm like, well, it sucks, but it's not that bad. And all through SF, all through the Q course, all through being a Green Beret, being in Ranger School, like I'm like, "Ugh," like it's not that bad. Like it really isn't. You know, there was a guy there at Restrepo that tore the bottom of his boot off on a mission on a patrol, and had to walk like Dr. Seuss with his foot sticking out of the bottom of his boot all the way back. I never forget this. He runs a pretty famous Instagram page now, and like I think about that dude's foot because I remember seeing it. First, it was like the bottom of his sole like flapping, and then it was nothing, and I was like Oliver Twist, dude. Holy crap, you know. Nothing is ever as bad as you think it is, you know. And I take that lesson with me. I really do. But and I've done everything I wanted to do in SF. I've been in the CRIF SIF. I'm a free fall jump master. I'm a diver. Like I have done the 4th Battalion stuff. I've done the DA stuff. I love it. I love my life. I love what I've done. But Restrepo is the foundation that my life was built on.
Yeah, I'm going to gloss over, as I say, we got real deep into the weeds with that. And that's really what I wanted to do because that's it. As we talked about it more, that's really a big part of your life. And I hope that the people that listen to this are just as interested in hearing about it from you now as I am. Still, even sitting here, I'm like, this is really fucking cool, Nick. But I'm going to gloss over, like, we discount our accomplishments and the enormity of them. 7th group, Green Beret, CDQC, which is fucking difficult. Dive school fucking blows. I don't know. I'm the fittest and most comfortable in the pool I've ever been, and I still go, I don't know if I could pass. I don't know. And I'm a fucking demon in the pool right now. Like, and I still don't know. I'm still fucking iffy.
Literal hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Terrible.
So
Terrible.
18 Fox intelligence guy. Then you get to you're a Zulu, so it means you're a fucking master sergeant. Then you say, I want to stay on the team. 180 Alpha, so we become a warrant to stay on the team. And you said CRIF, so that means you've got some DA experience, some extra schools in there, so all kinds of shit. I think you said Archangel at one point and Halo Jumpmaster, more advanced schools.
Yeah.
You've done
Halo Jump
all
Master. I'm Sephardic. Sniper qualified. Pacific.
level 3. Okay, so we got all the cool guy shit. You did all the fucking cool guy shit you can do in group, right? Where do you rank Restrepo deployment versus all of that? Because
It's tough, man.
you said you were
Because
chasing something in soft that you couldn't duplicate. Were you ever able to get close?
no, nothing will ever replace what I did at Restrepo or even come hold a candle to it. Now I've had a lot of fun, dude. I've got like almost 500 free fall jumps. You know, been a diver, level 3, been a sniper. Have had countless SF deployments, both to CENTCOM and SOUTHCOM, and but that lived that that OP lives rent free in my mind, and those men always do. And that's why, like I said early on, like I hope they know how much they mean to me, because I've been chasing. I don't want to say high, but I've been chasing fulfillment. Um, that I can't find, and I don't think you can find, because when you watch Band of Brothers or the Pacific or any you hear any of these older stories, this is the brotherhood they're talking about, you know, and it's forged in fire. It's hard to find. It really, really is. And we were able to do that. Like I love those guys, you know. And the funny thing is, brother, is that like now that I've kind of come out on social media, last night I had a conversation with a dude for like 2 hours that I haven't talked to in years, man. And you know, he's like, I hope you're still with Julia, you know, and I'm like, yeah, you know, still with the wife. And you know, they met in Italy, and like when he was still in Italy and she was there, like, you know, these dudes are coming out of the woodworkings, and I'm getting like, oh my gosh, you know, where have you been? Like this, that, and the other. Like, I know you went SF. Like, is it over? Like, what's happening? And it makes me so happy just to hear from them, you know, just to know that that they're still around and they still remember me because I remember them every day. Every day they their impressions on me, their thumbprints on me, like they live a lot, they last. And who knows, man? I wouldn't be any of those cool things if it wasn't for that 15, 16 months. I'd have none of this. No night dives in Key West. Yeah, no night dives in Key West. No, wall locker jumps. No long range shots. No, nothing. Everything. I don't grow a very good beard, so my Afghan trips are impressive. It's very ratty and gross, but um, all my time is earmarked by that one thing that kind of built me. And the funny thing is I was not mature enough or good enough to pass selection in my best physical state, but I was after maturing from those NCOs and that experience. So I owe it all to them.
Fucking wild, man. It's wild. It really is. And the whole side of it, other side of it, right? From my point of view, this show didn't exist 6.5 months ago, right? The name didn't exist, none of it, anything like that. And to start it with the little goal that I had, and now, we got in contact, I was fucking excited. Like, no fucking way is a guy from the movie that I watched, you know? And I was like, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy watching that shit. And now you're here talking to me, and it's just similar to when I talked to one of the horse soldiers and stuff, talking to him. It's just fucking insane. The places that I guess it's special, like special op, because this is my corner of the market is special operations, right? And all of the crazy shit, but it all happened before, and it made you into the special operator that you were and became because of that trauma and that experience with those guys. Um, I I don't know what to say, man. I'm really very happy that you've come on my show and that we've met and that, you seem to have your shit together as well as you do. And I hope in your transition that you continue that and keep your head up and be the best, as good a veteran as you have been a service member. I really do. And fuck, man, that's that's fucking really cool. I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. I've got 5 questions that I ask everybody, and then we'll cut you loose and see how we did. How's that sound?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity, brother. Like I told you before, I discovered you by accident. I was arguing with my wife, talking about what I should do on the outside, and she was scrolling Instagram while I was driving, and she turned the phone to a post of yours, and she's like, "Look at this guy. He's got it together. He's doing something pretty cool." And I like looked at it, and I don't remember what it was. Was like, "That is pretty cool." And then you were recommended later on. I was like, "Oh, that's cool." But you said something about you quitting drinking. I quit drinking. Like I'm trying to live as best I can
Yeah.
on the outside, and upholding that standard, and I hope I do so. So yeah, fire away, brother.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm proud of you. That's good. I what is your response to thank you for your service?
Oof. I listened to some of your podcasts, and like I thought about this question because I always have a really douchey response, and it comes off the cuff, and I hate that I say it, and then I spend too much time thinking about my response after the fact. Almost always, it's right on, brother. Appreciate that. And I hate when other veterans do it, like especially like older guys. They're like, "Thank you for serving." They're wearing like a veteran hat. I'm like, "Thank you too." Like, it drives me nuts because I don't particularly enjoy it. I'm like, "Hey, man, like, normal dude, just doing some stuff." Like, but I'm always like, "Right on, brother. Thank you as well." Like I don't know what to say.
We got to get you dialed in on that one. That'll come though. That'll come. We'll get you dialed in. I just say it was an
Yeah,
honor. It really was. And that shuts the conversation down. So I'm truthful in saying that, and it's not thank you. It was an honor. So it's more passing it off as thank you
good. Yeah,
first.
and I don't
So
wear a lot of SF or Army stuff, so like a lot of people don't know, and like my family will tell you, like, if they're like, oh, everybody service member stand up and take, give applause, I won't stand up. Like, I try to stay away from that. It's a hazard of being soft for so long. I'm like, just a mechanic, just another dude. Like, you don't need to, don't clap, So yeah, it's something weird.
What is the one characteristic that sets operators apart from the conventional forces?
Conventional forces, huh? One characteristic. I would probably say unconventional perseverance. And that's a weird answer, but you understand it if you went to selection. Unconventional perseverance is like, yeah, I always tell this to my sons, like anybody can do anything if you're being yelled at and you're screamed at, or everybody else is sucking, but you've done the star. I've done the star. It's a whole different story when you're by yourself sucking and you're forced to figure it out on the fly and go, you know? So I always tell my kids, like, find outside of the box and persevere, like, go with it. Unconventional perseverance is the key.
Yeah. Fucking, I've even joked, like, making notes or stuff here at the house. I'm like, man, they could cut selection down to fucking the star and team week, and we can just fucking take some time off, Okay, we gotta have the gates, but I don't know. That you can train that shit. If we're looking
I
to
couldn't
save
tell
some
you what I
time
did
here,
the first week anyway.
yeah, I don't remember that shit. I don't remember that shit at all.
Couple runs, maybe. I don't know.
I
Long and rifle
remember,
PT. I think I did the option course.
yeah, they don't do log and rifle PT anymore. They've optimized the course, I
I heard
guess.
that. That really saddened me.
Yeah, that did me too.
Terrible
So
day.
whatever. Yeah, they're optimizing things. All right, man. I think I already know the answer to this question, but we're gonna have to get real specific, I guess, into a singular moment. What is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo, and it wouldn't change where you are now?
Man, it's got to be the headshot. Yeah. It's either that or my first time through selection. I wish I could see myself in those shoes, but I really, really like it's a twofold thing because I want to know why I was so ate up the first time in selection. It's funny because I know dudes that were in that selection class with me that ended up being in group with me. They're like, yeah, you were dumb as hell. I'm like, oh, thank you, I guess, but I tell everybody the headshot story from a perspective that I don't know is true. And I don't ever want to get called out because I don't really know how that happened, how I'm alive, and I wish I could see it from a third person point of view.
Mm, interesting. Do you have contact with anybody that was there, right there that day?
Yeah, I do, and a couple of them they give very broad answers. They're like, "We thought you were dead." I'm like, I'm aware, so did I. But if I could sit down, there's two people that are paramount, and I haven't reached out to one of them, and I know he'll have the details. Um, because he was right there. He was the one that called it up. And I'll end up reaching out to him at some point and being like, I need to know exactly how this went down because this is freaking me out. And with all this talk going on about like what's factual in somebody's career and what's not, I'm not going to get into that. But like, I have a terrible memory, and I couldn't begin to tell you what's right or what's wrong. So I'm like, I tiptoe around details because I'm like, look, man, I can't remember any of that. And I don't want to mess it up and I don't want to dishonor somebody that might have done something. But I really wish I knew if it was what it was or if I'm making it all up in my head and I just like smoked around and then went running. I don't know. But, you know,
I I think we can probably come up with something. We'll figure something out. What is the
yeah.
best piece of advice that you received during your career?
Don't fall in love with your own legend. Somebody once told me that and they said it's a SEAL trait, which I thought was funny. But they said the minute you start to fall in love with the person that you think you are or the person you're supposed to be, this is right when I got to SF. Um, don't fall in love with your own legend because what he was trying to say was, and I think about this once a week, is you're never there. Always try to be more. Always you're striving one foot in front of the other. The trek. It's never done. Keep going. Never think that you never set. You know what I'm saying? So when he said that to me, I still say that, like, never fall in love with your own legend. Because there was a time when the Restrepo crew was famous, man. Like people, especially military famous, and I could have rested on those laurels, or I could have done whatever, or just been in SF and been like, yay. And I've always tried to keep on maintaining a level of high performance and integrity that I think is owed. You know what I'm saying?
I
So it's
do.
a weird one, but I don't know why I always come back to that. Don't fall in love with your own legend.
Yeah. Can't let success go to your head. Even though
Yeah.
this is not success. This is like so fucking random that okay, yeah, you guys got sent to the middle of butt fuck nowhere, but then the army also sent a fucking camera crew there, and
Right.
they documented it in a way that was respectful. Who fucking know? Who knew, right? That would all happen, all that in
Yeah.
tandem to these fucking random kids in Italy, and then you're an X-ray coming in, going this way, and then oh fuck, I'm in Italy because this guy's fucking pregnant wife, and we swapped orders, and now here I am. So random. It's not like success. It's just you're thrown into this situation, and I don't know. You went to use a modern term, you went viral, right? And nobody ever thinks that shit's gonna happen unless you're already a fucking Instagram star or some shit like that. So it just happened back before it was a term, and well, that's good. That's good. Somebody told you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I always tell
Hopefully,
people the whirlwind it took for me to get to where I am right now is the strangest thing to ever happen. Like how I met my wife on like a missed train and a dude trying to find a real toilet instead of the European like style toilets and us bumping into everything that has led me to this point has been the weirdest universal like prodigy ever. Like the way I got to exactly where I'm sitting is so weird. And by chance. By chance.
yeah. Everybody's got a weird path to the beret, right? To graduation, to getting it. Like we all convert. All these fucking millions of paths converge on a single point, and then they all fucking branch back out and go. But we all get to that certain point. You fucking suffered to get to the beret from initial idea to actually getting it handed to you. So uh, everybody's is different. Not saying we're better than anybody else or worse off. It's just fucking everybody has a different path, but you got yours, and
Yeah.
then here we are sitting talking about it and shit. All right, man.
Crazy.
Last one. What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
Um, like, what do you mean by then? Like, Restrepo then?
During your service. Well, I guess it would be from this exact moment backwards, and then I guess moving forward into retirement.
Yeah. So, then I was afraid of letting the dudes down. Like letting the dudes down. It's funny. I had a conversation with somebody, and he was talking about nightmares. We were both at a place, and he's like, everybody talks about war nightmares. He's like, you know what my number one nightmare is? It's leaving my weapon. I don't know. He's like, and then having everybody make fun of me. He's like, I have that over and over again. I'm like, that's hilarious. He's like, but for years, you just did everything. And I don't know if first group's the same. I'm assuming they are, but like, people don't understand that we get chastised if you are the weakest link on an ODA. Like, you get hammered. You never want to let the homies down. You never want to let the homies down. And I was always that dude, like, hey, what do you need? I'll do it. You want me to carry something? I'll do it. Um, So I was always fearful of that. Like if you were designated as the weak person of whatever X, Y, or Z, and you worked to make that part of you stronger. Whatever it is, you were like, no, I will not be that person. Um, having somebody else carry your load, it terrified me. I hated it. I hated being thought of, and reputation precedes you, as you know. You did never want to be known as that guy. You know, you want to be known as the homie that could do what needed to be done for the good of the group. For the good of the ODA.
Hmm.
You know,
And now moving forward,
so looking forward. Now I'm in a precarious spot, man, because unlike some of your other guests, like I'm the outside is freaking me out, man. It's really like I said before we started the show, like I feel like Morgan Freeman standing outside Shawshank with his suitcases. Like I don't know what is out there. I've only known this for 20 years. And, you know, certain things make me mad that shouldn't. A slower than normal sandwich line at the deli will really get me going. And then certain things I'm okay with. And it's because personal responsibility, I don't know, but the unknown right now is freaking me out. And looking forward, looking ahead at what I'm supposed to be doing, what can I do? I've got a touch of imposter syndrome. Like, man, I don't have anything to offer like the outside world. Maybe I'll just take a contract. Um, So that runs through my head 100 times a day, more than that. What do I have to offer the outside world? And these civilians are always asking me. I work with some civilians with the youth wrestling and the youth sports and stuff, and they ask me, "What are you going to do when you get out?" And I don't have a good answer because I hate to tell them this, but like, look, man, I want to learn things that I didn't have a chance to do or learn while I was in the army. Like, yeah, I went to level 1 sniper, but I really want to learn how to smoke like a pork butt, like really bad, and like I don't know how to do that. So I'm gonna take like 2 weeks and buy a smoker and learn that, and I'm gonna learn how to like do cabinets and like I want to do stuff I just haven't done, and it's freaking me out. The outside's freaking me out, brother.
I got a guess for that. He can teach you. He's an actual certified fucking pork taster or something shit like that. Now, not the gay kind. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But, all right, here's what I'll tell you. And this is for all my listeners and all my buddies out there. Somebody came on this show, and fuck, I'm sorry, I can't remember. The fucking team room is a lot bigger on the outside. Let me tell you that first off, right? The team room in the fucking company area only holds 12 guys, and that's it. Those are the only guys you hang out with. That's your whole world's limited to those 12 guys or 11 guys and all that. And sometimes they don't want to hang out with you. And that's fine too. They got their own thing going on with their own family. But I will tell you on this side, the one thing you don't have to be scared about is all of us will wanting to be in the team room together, no matter what that looks like. And I've learned that from Instagram and everybody that supported me and everything that I've tried to do. Fucking all these dudes out here, the real ones, the real people that really are my friends, have supported me to the nth degree on everything I'm trying to do. And I try to reciprocate that as much as I can. So don't fucking worry about your friends out here. We're here for you. I guarantee you that. So uh, that I don't know how to put it any other way than that. My big thing is fucking trying to be there for people and at least letting them know that there are so many more people on this side that care about you than on the inside. Because on the inside, we all have a job to do. We're required to be there, legally binded to come to work and put our uniform on and do our contract's worth and then go home. That shit's over on this side of things. And if somebody's got a problem with the way you're doing things or is shitting on you in the comments, fuck them. You can't let that shit eat at you because there's 100 other people that'll be extremely supportive of what you're trying to do for that one person that's having a bad day in the comments and wants to shit on people for no reason. So that's one thing I can convey to you from this whole 3+ hours that we talked together. The fucking team room on this side's a lot fucking bigger. So I hope that if you need me or any of my guests or any of my friends or the people I associate with, you just let me know and I will put you in contact with them and hopefully we can get you back into the limelight and help you launch a business. And I guess hopefully some bigger friends that I can introduce you to. And for everybody else listening to this too, your friends are still out there. It might look different. The team room might look different. The squad area, all of that shit, they're out there and they're thinking about you as well. So don't get hung up on I'm alone or I'm isolated. Your friends are still thinking about you. So that's what I got for you, man. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, it does. I appreciate that, brother. Because I said this before. You join the army. Some people know this, but they walk you from station to station, signature to signature. When you're getting out, it's like a boot to the butt. They're like, "Hey, good luck. Like, figure it out." You're like, "Oh man, what?" And like I told you, when I found out where you're located, I was like, "Yes, I got a homie. Thank God." I was like fired up about it. I'm like, "There's one in that area."
Yeah, it's um, it's cool. I got a few guys here, and if you make it out here, we can finally get an SF breakfast together where we can all go eat terrible food and bitch about the younger generation. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
All right, man. Hey, and one more thing I wanted to offer to you while we got you, and so it's recorded, so you can hold me to it. If you and you get your buddies together and you guys want to fucking break down a story from Restrepo and just have a good time getting everybody on here and get it documented so you can get a story out in the world, I'll wrap it up as an episode or a short episode or whatever. We can put it out, or you guys can get together and I'll wrap on the same story and put some stuff together and we can do something like that. So if you think of anything where I can help, I'm here for you. All right. All right. I really appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you had to enjoy yourself. You got anything for me, man?
I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
yeah. I skipped one thing. How can everybody find you on the socials if they so choose?
I'm on the Instagram at the real Kyle Steiner. Just
All right.
real Kyle Steiner. I think .com, but that's not right. I'm new to Instagram at
All
real
right.
Kyle Steiner.
At Real Kyle Steiner. I will have links to your socials in the show description. Once again, you got anything for me, man?
No, brother. I really appreciate it.
The honor, all mine over here. I appreciate you guys. Be good.